all spaces where the IMO has jurisdiction. And in Jamaica, we are cognizant that this is Maritime Awareness Week. And today, the 29th of September of each year, is marked as Maritime Awareness Day. One of the beautiful things of being downtown Kingston at the Jamaica Conference Centre, our gracious hosts, is that we can look right through the windows and see the awesome Caribbean Sea that keeps business going in Jamaica. And we are grateful to have this view, the same kind of view, Prof. Spencer, that we have from CMU. This morning, we are starting on a discussion path. As we look at the conference theme, I want to say welcome, but the official welcomes will come to Industry Conference 2022. We have taken a long break. It's time to get back to quote-unquote normal. And today and tomorrow, we will have strong discourse on our theme, end-to-end logistics, opportunities in an era of uncertainty. Talk about what makes this era uncertain. I am happy that our colleagues from the Bethlehem Moravian Teachers College are back in school. The pandemic had all of us out, and soon some of our own students will arrive who are back in school for the first time, face-to-face, in 3 or so years. This morning, we are happy to be here. And before I say anything else, we are going to do things in the CMU style. And I invite the leader of our cadet company, and these are seafarers you will be looking at, ladies and gentlemen, to start us on the official opening trajectory. Gentlemen and ladies, over to you. Please tell us what you want us to do, when you want us to stand, etc. Ladies and gentlemen, I invite you to stand for the playing of Jamaica's national anthem. Thank you. You may be seated. This morning, I invite to the podium Pastor Linton L. Williams, a long-standing member of the CMU community or chaplain. Pastor Williams, to bring the invocation.
Thank you. May I invite you to stand at this time for the prayer. Our gracious Heavenly Father, this morning we thank you for this new day. We thank you for life. We thank you for health. We thank you, O God, for this great opportunity to be here and to participate in this great conference. We thank you, O God, that we are not alone in this conference, because in your words, you have said that you will never leave us, and neither will you forsake us. And so, your presence here today, O God, means a lot to us, because we are aware that if we seek your guidance, if we seek your help, if we seek your wisdom, you will indeed guide us through this process, so that whatever we do, whatever we say, will only bring honor to your name and will strengthen our communities in which we live. Today, gathered here, we have leaders of this great institution, the Caribbean Maritime Institution, our president, and other workers. We ask, oh Lord, that you will continue to give them wisdom, so that as they lead in this great institution, men and women, boys and girls, will see a great perspective and be men and women of change in our community. Gathered here are also men and women and students who will participate in this conference and will share their vision, will share their ideas, will share what is in their hearts as we look at the way forward, even in uncertain times. We look at how this industry can move on from strength to strength. And so we thank you for the wisdom that you have given us. We thank you for the abilities and the talents that you have endowed on us. And we come together not as a divided set, but we have come as one people to chart the way forward, even in this pandemic. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for blessing us. And may today, O God, be a day that we'll all be happy when we have ended our discussions and as we have planned for the future. Thank you again for blessing us. We pray in the name of the Father, in the name of His Son, and in the name of the blessed Holy Spirit, and we say amen. Amen.
Thank you. Please be seated. At the desk this morning, we have several key stakeholders for the university. I would like to introduce to you the Deputy Director, the Director General. You say I had a conversation yesterday, Admiral, with the Deputy Director General. The Director General of the Maritime Authority of Jamaica, the Chairman of our HR Committee of CMU Council, Rear Admiral Retired Peter Brady. And next to Admiral Brady, we have Ambassador of France to Jamaica, Ambassador Olivier Guyenvar. Next to Ambassador Guyenvar, we have the Honorable Dr. Norman Dunn. I know you know his face from media, MP. The Minister of State in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. And we have our CMU President, Professor Andrew Spencer. This morning you will hear from this group of distinguished gentlemen. And we will begin with our official welcome from our President, Professor Andrew Spencer, and then Admiral Brady, as a member of council, will bring you home greetings. So it's Professor Spencer and then Admiral Brady. Prof.
Thank you very much, Dr. Johnson, Conference Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, before I get into the formalities, it is clear to me that the CMU is a place of seriousness. If you agree with me, give a round of applause. The atmosphere created by the wonderful ladies and gentlemen seated at the back who did their flag routine demonstrated not just an atmosphere of seriousness, but an atmosphere of sophistication. And that's how we elevate our space through excellence. Can I get another round of applause for them? Little does Rear Admiral Brady know that the reason I wanted to take this job was for the white uniform. The Honorable, I should have worn it today, right? The Honorable Dr. Norman Dunn, Minister of State in the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. His Excellency, Mr. Olivier Guyenvar. Did I get that correct? Brilliant. Admiral Peter Brady, representing the CMU Council. Admiral is, of course, the head of the Maritime Authority of Jamaica as well. Conference co-chairs, Professor Ibrahim Ajaguna, as well as Dr. Yvette Smith-Johnson, who is the CMU's Director of Graduate Studies and Research. Professor Ajaguna is the Deputy President of the CMU. In absentia, I should have mentioned that Minister, the Honorable Favour Williams, indicated that she would arrive a little bit later in the function, as she would not want to miss such an important event. Dr. Genevieve Brown Metzger, President and Executive Director of the American Caribbean Maritime Foundation, whom you'll hear from a little later on. Guest speaker, Mr. Darwin Telemac, Chief Executive Officer of the Antigua Port Authority and Chairman of the Port Management Association of the Caribbean. Other members of the Caribbean Maritime University. I especially want to highlight our senior leadership and our faculty and all members here gathered. Good morning, everyone. I feel lucky, I feel grateful, I feel excited this morning to welcome you to the 2022 CMU Industry Conference. And this is importantly an industry conference. And that's the kind of way that the CMU finds the nexus between academia and industry. And I see my friends from Nexus smiling. Welcome, Chris and Shannon. I want to thank everyone who has been a part of bringing this together, led by our Deputy President, Professor Ajaguna and Dr. Smith-Johnson. We're packing a punch, ladies and gentlemen, with 2 days of presentations and deliberations about some of the most important, powerful, and potent issues facing the maritime industry. I also want to thank the researchers and the presenters, the CMU faculty and the faculty from other universities, as well as the industry stakeholders from the maritime and related sectors who are here to discuss what I call a business proposition. Evidence of this business proposition lies right outside the doors of this conference center. The Kingston Harbor, ladies and gentlemen, the 7th largest natural harbor in the world. That fact gives Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean a business opportunity. The harbor, same harbor that you're sitting with your backs to, is one of the principal waterways by which ships bring goods all around the world. Put another way, we are a gateway to global trade, a gateway to jobs, a gateway to business for Caribbean people. And the CMU holds a vital key to that gateway. Apart from being the 7th largest natural harbor in the world, we know that countries in the Caribbean benefit from their setting in the principal east-west global trade routes, which pass through this very important Panama Canal. So when one considers that around 80% of the volume of international trade in goods is carried by sea, and that the percentage is even higher for most developing countries, we can draw one clear conclusion. There's a sea of opportunity, and not just for Jamaica, but for the Caribbean. Let me repeat, a sea of opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. And not just regional opportunity, a global one. That's where the CMU comes in, and it leads me to why I am particularly grateful. So I've had the opportunity to work both inside academia as a researcher and outside of academia as an executive and leader, including serving on several public sector boards. And when you move to a new organization, you want to meet people excited about what they do and why they do it. I'm grateful for the team I have met at the CMU. Give them a warm round of applause. From executive management to senior management, from faculty to front desk, from security guards to ancillary workers, everywhere I go on campus, people have a sense of energy and urgency. They understand the business opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. They understand that an organization like the CMU means a great deal for their communities, for the country, and for the Caribbean. And I agree with them. People need to see, understand, and own this opportunity. The CMU has trained thousands of people since its founding on September 15, 1980, including members of the leadership in some of the largest businesses in the public and private sectors, in the maritime sector, across the region and the world. And the CMU is the largest specialized maritime university and training institution in the region. For this, we're proud, in a sector which is a major round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, consider this estimate from the United with a T, US dollars. Imagine that when over the last 2 years, that engine of global trade has sputtered because of COVID-19. You know it and I know it. It has affected every single industry. In education, it forced students out of physical classrooms into internet classrooms. In shipping, it disrupted ports and supply chains and even left seafarers stranded by the thousands. Those are the kinds of problems the papers today will tackle. And it is tremendously important work that we ought to pay keen attention to. And that's why I'm not just feeling lucky and grateful this morning, but I'm feeling excited about the business proposition. Some of the papers submitted as part of that thread of discussions, researchers have examined how we can train and recertify crew for the new normal spawned by COVID-19. Another thread is risk and vulnerability, where one team explored whether students know enough about the sector and made recommendations to tackle the challenge. Yet another thread is one that's very important to me. It's technology and the modernization, where the Dean of Engineering at the CMU, Peter McCarthy, examines the opportunities for synergies between engineering technologies and techniques used to design, implement, and manage supply chains. Ladies and gentlemen, those papers and the many others that I could not cite in the interest of time represent a business proposition for industry to work with us to come up with solutions that make the engine of global growth more resilient in a post-COVID-19 world. As a man that has worked in academia as well as management, I am a big believer that academia must feed industry and industry must feed academia. We must conduct the kind of cutting-edge, industry-relevant research so that Caribbean nationals can set sail on that sea of opportunity which we mentioned earlier. Over the next 2 days, that is what I fully expect that we will do. We will be talking about opportunities and taking opportunities and building partnerships to open the gateway fully for Caribbean people and Caribbean businesses. Beyond these conference rooms, ladies and gentlemen, you can also expect that we will be reaching out to you even more. We'll be reaching out to our industry partners because we want to create projects to research challenges that you face and retrain, recertify, and retool your team members for the new normal. Thank you again for coming, and I look forward to meeting with you, speaking with you, and sharing with all of you. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Honorable Dr. Norman Dunn, Minister of State, Industry, Investment and Commerce. Your Excellency, Mr. Olivier Gayenbach, Ambassador of France in Jamaica. Professor Andrew Spencer, President of the CMU. Professor Ibrahim Ajaguna, Deputy President of the University. Dr. Yvette Smith-Johnson, Director of Graduate Studies and Research, and today our conference chair. I'm sure Dr. Genevieve Brown, Metzer Brown, will join us later today, but I send a salutation to her nevertheless. Guest speaker, Mr. Darwin Telemack, Chief Executive Officer, Antigua Port Authority, and Chairman, Port Management Association of the Caribbean. Mr. Omar Cheddar, Senior Director, Investment Unit, Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. Other members of the Caribbean Maritime University, other specially invited guests, including presenters, stakeholders in the maritime logistics and related industries, and members of the audience here today at this conference, good morning. A special welcome also to those who are joining us online via YouTube. Firstly, let me echo the newly minted president of the Caribbean Maritime University and offer on behalf of the CMU Council my own warm welcome to what is the university's first industry conference since the onset of the dreaded COVID-19 pandemic. But before I proceed further, I want to note that because of other obligations, the CMU chairman, Professor Gordon Shirley, was not able to be here today as we head into these robust discussions that will no doubt be a feature of the next 2 days of deliberations. As the Director General of the Maritime Authority of Jamaica, and as a CMU member, I am, however, very happy to have myself been asked by Professor Shirley to stand in, because the Maritime Authority of Jamaica, as with the CMU Council, firmly believes in the critical importance of this maritime sector for Jamaica. The vision of my own outfit, the Maritime Authority of Jamaica, is to elevate Jamaica's maritime status to world standards through the provision of quality client-focused services, making the best use of appropriate technology and employing highly trained and motivated staff. And I pause just to echo that today is, in fact, as Yvette had mentioned, World Maritime Day, and we are observing the theme of new technologies for greener shipping. This is in tandem with the CMU's own vision of being the maritime university of choice for global leaders. What is key is that we look outwards at global initiatives and not just locally. I am blessed to be a part of both entities, as I am able to see firsthand the impact each has had on the industry. The theme of this conference, end-to-end logistics, opportunities in an era of uncertainty, speaks directly to the unpredictable times we are experiencing. End-to-end logistics is a term you will hear thrown around over the next 2 days. We are essentially talking about the entire supply chain process, from product design and procurement of raw materials to the delivery of the final product, and to some extent, even customer service. We recognized immediately that the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic would create a new normal. This has seen the destruction and simultaneous creation of opportunities for all industries. Notwithstanding, the logistics sector could not buckle under the pressure. Indeed, it needed to be stronger than ever. And as 90% of world trade depends on the efficient functioning of our industry, we need to note. Seafarers has been at the heart of the worldwide efforts to cope with and produce effectively during the pandemic. While much of the world shut its doors and its borders and locked down to minimize risk, our seafarers went about their essential daily business to ensure everyone all over the globe was supplied with the goods and commodities that they needed. Just think of food, energy, medicines, clothing, household goods, manufacturing materials, among others. In fact, in Jamaica, with guidance from the Maritime Authority of Jamaica, seafarers were designated as essential workers due to their importance in the logistics chain, and also in response to a plea from the UN agencies, including the International Maritime Organization, UNCTAD, and the ILO. They pleaded to the world to give seafarers a special designation called key workers so that they could do their crew changes, take their leaves, and so on, so that international trade could not be interrupted. Jamaica went a step further and designated them as essential workers in our Risk Management Act. We're not completely out of the woods. The pandemic is still impacting the industry, and the concerns of international wars and political upheavals continue to dramatically affect trade and other areas. If that wasn't enough, we are faced with the rise of new diseases, some of which have reached troublesome levels in various states. These are just some of the issues that threaten to disrupt the sector. It is my hope that this industry will provide an effective platform, this industry conference will provide an effective platform to advance knowledge, research and technology in the industry so that we may meet and defeat those challenges. In that vein, as I close, I want you to ask yourself these questions as we hold discussions over the next few days. How do we, as an industry, leverage the opportunities created by this pandemic? And how do we bring more technology into our end-to-end logistic processes so that the world trade becomes even more efficient? It's for this reason I'm especially excited to hear the perspective of keynote speaker, Mr. Darwin Telemac, Chief Executive Officer of the Antigua Port Authority and the head of the Port Management Association of the Caribbean, whose extensive knowledge and skill sets have been acquired from working hands-on within the industry. I also want to thank all of you who have shown up to participate this morning. I have no doubt that the discussions to be had will be enriching and help elevate the maritime and related industries. As I close, I also want to say a hearty thank you to Professor Ajaguna and Yvette Smith-Johnson, the organizers and co-chairs of this event, and lately, the enthusiasm and support brought from our newly minted president, Professor Andrew Spencer. Your contributions have not gone unnoticed, and as we sit in this lovely setting, we recognize your hard work and dedication to seeing that this conference from idea straight to execution. We salute the sponsors of this event, Lanneman and Morris, Freight Handlers Limited, and the Universal Service Funds, all of which have also contributed considerably towards this event. I look forward to sharing with you in the next few days. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Spencer. Thank you, Admiral Brady. When I was onboarded at the CMU many moons ago, Professor, I watched a video, and there was, I'll give you what my horrible memory has. There was a ship out in the ocean that got into trouble. And Ambassador Guyanva, you'll be happy to hear it was a British ship, not a French vessel. And there was a German vessel that picked up the distress call. And the person, I think Admiral Brady in the GMDSS room at the time, picked up the call, but there was a language thing going on. And so the German who picked up said, "This is the," and he named the vessel, "How can we help?" And the British said, "We're sinking, we're sinking." And the German responded, "What are you thinking about?" And I really remember it because it was so funny how just what we communicate and how we understand what is communicated can divide us and cause problems. But this morning, I think we're all communicating the same thing, that we are in a very important space. And even as our cadets did their flag ceremony, and I would like the students who are members of the cohort doing cruise shipping and marine tourism management to stand. Well, they're standing. You see that blue and white uniform? They represent one set of students in our bachelor's degrees. But I hope you will get work in France. You're getting the French motif now? Yes. There's a flag that was placed to my left, you're right. The hoist is blue. The fly is red. You understand flag speak, right? And there is a perfect third in the middle that is white. It is the flag of France. But we have some other French-speaking territories in the house. My own dear Madame Mylène Ferreira, please stand, Madame. And Mademoiselle Sandra Casanova. Martinique, I hope you see your flag. It's very there. Thank you so much. And with that in mind, that part of our trade is in Spanish, part is in French, part is in Patois, I'm going to invite to the podium His Excellency Ambassador Olivier Goyenva, the Ambassador of France to Jamaica, to bring greetings at this time. Make him welcome, please.
Thank you very much for your kind words regarding France, and I guess I'm going to give you another opportunity for jokes with my accent. Mr. Honorable Minister, Norman Dunn, and Admiral Reedy, Professor Spencer, President of the CMU, Professor Ajaguna, Vice President of CMU, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great pleasure and honor to bring greetings at Caribbean Maritime University Industry Conference 2022. I think this is the first time that a French ambassador participates in this event, and I would like to thank CMU for inviting me. Indeed, Jamaica and France are two great maritime nations. Jamaica is a maritime hub in the region, benefiting from the best deep water harbor at the eastern exit of the Panama Canal. And France is the maritime door for Europe on the Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean Sea. France and Jamaica are also neighbors in the Caribbean, as you just mentioned, with Guadeloupe, Martinique, and French Guiana. We can develop more maritime synergies between those islands for the benefit of a better connectivity in the region. And I'm happy that we have today in the room the representative of the logistical and transport cluster in Guadeloupe, Mrs. Casanova. Jamaica and France have already put in place partnership in the maritime industry, which can only develop and expand. It is the case with the massive investment of CMS EGM in the operation of KFTL and the involvement of Sojet, a provider of logistics software to the Port Authority of Jamaica. Currently, when I speak, a senior administrator of the Port Authority is attending the 36th advanced course of port operations and management in Le Havre, France. Jamaica and France also both contribute to high-level maritime education and training of seafarers with CMU here and with the French Maritime Academy, which have 4 campuses in France, 2 on the Channel coast and 2 on the Atlantic and Mediterranean coast, respectively. France and Jamaica have a lot to share in this field. At the initiative of the French Embassy, modestly on my own initiative, both academies have launched preliminary discussions, and I'm sure that we will be able to put in place a fruitful cooperation for the benefit of the youth of our nations. And I would like to salute the students who are here today. You are going to do a great, great job, which was my great job, my dream job when I was your age. So let's France and Jamaica join together their efforts for an always better and safer maritime industry at the service of the sustainable growth for the world economy and respectful of human life and sea and of the marine environment. I wish you a very fruitful CMU Industry Conference 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. And who better to respond with reciprocal thoughts than the representative from the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce. And I ask you to make welcome at this podium the Honorable Dr. Norman Dunn, MP, Minister of State in said industry. Dr. Dunn.
Good morning, all. Dr. Smith Johnson, Master of Ceremony, the Honorable Favor Williams, which we're expecting later today, His Excellency Olivier Genova, French, I don't speak French, right? So I hope it doesn't come across that bad. Rear Admiral Peter Brady, Director General, Maritime Authority of Jamaica, Professor Andrew Spencer, who I know in another life, President CMU, Professor Abraham Agajana, Deputy President CMU and Conference Chair, Co-Chair, and other members of the CMU fraternity, Dr. Genevieve Brown Metzer, President and Executive Director, American Caribbean Maritime Foundation, Dr. Darwin Telemaku, Chief Executive Officer, Antigua Port Authority and Chairman, Port Management Association of the Caribbean, stakeholders, and I pause to mention former Commissioner Owen Ellington, and Director Cheddar from the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, other stakeholders in the maritime, logistics, and related industries, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. So I'm pleased to represent the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce at today's conference. The discussion on end-to-end logistics opportunities in an era of uncertainty is well-timed, and I commend the leadership of CMU for their responsiveness to the prevailing conditions which inform the theme. Economic activity in Jamaica and other nations of the world is regaining its vibrancy as we use the lessons learned from the pandemic and the ongoing war in Russia, Ukraine, supply chains disruptions, and other global events to shape how we conduct economic activity locally and beyond our borders. The stability now evident in the Jamaican economy, without exaggeration, is an enviable one. Strong fiscal policies have ensured that we are emerging confidently from the pandemic years. In March this year, the rating agency Fitch affirmed our B+ rating and declared that the economic outlook is stable. Tourism, our highest foreign exchange earner, is projecting around 2.5 million visitors, arrivals with expected visitor spend of around $2.9 billion and earning in excess of $4 billion this year. Reports from the Statistics Institute of Jamaica indicated that our unemployment rate has fallen to the lowest in the history of Jamaica, and that's 6%. And that Company Office of Jamaica has reported that it expects record numbers of business registration this year. Jamaica has attracted solid investments. Our outsourcing sector leads as the fastest growing in the region, accounting for more than $1 billion in earning, with more than 75 companies operating in our global service sector. Just last week, the ministry was invited to witness the opening of its newest arrival, Teleseo, in New Kingston Business District, which now is employing over 600 young persons, with more projected in the medium term. As a representative of the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce, I applaud all stakeholders in the logistics, maritime, and related industries for the resilience and agility demonstrated during the past 2 years. The supply chain disruptions have been particularly challenging for this industry, but we noted that innovative thinking that allows you to continue to operate and respond to the needs of our Jamaicans, especially in the delivery of health supplies, as we battle the pandemic. Jamaica has been making significant strides in the logistics industry, which researchers believe represents approximately 10 to 15% of the global GDP. We have a perfect geographical destination. within 4 hours of flight radius to over 500 million of the world's population in the Western Hemisphere. We are connected to over 140 ports across the world, and we are number 1 in transshipment port in the region, with modern warehousing facility, distribution hub, attractive special economic zone incentive legislation, and preferential trade agreements. We also have a robust telecommunication infrastructure, which has built-in redundancies to ensure service continuity. However, we must continue to leverage our natural advantages and employ the available technologies to grow the industry to one where offerings are sought after worldwide. Globally, the pandemic has spurred an increase in reliance on technology to drive commercial activities. Companies improve supply chain performance and enhance customer experience with technologies such as blockchain, artificial intelligence, and automation. Amazon, for instance, has introduced robots in its warehouse to focus on repetitive tasks, such as emptying items from shelves, leaving humans to undertake activities required critical thinking. Jamaica is ranked 6th globally in the World Bank ease of doing business, of starting businesses. As we solidify our positioning as a logistic destination of choice, the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce is placing particular emphasis on digital transformation as a tool to enhance and improve the ease of doing business through initiatives such as the National Business Portal, JSwift, Asikuda platform, as well as Trade Information Portal. At the same time, we are also positioning ourselves to take advantage of the opportunities created by the expansion of the Panama Canal, which has opened avenues for new and innovative commercial ventures here in Jamaica. Through the efforts of our agencies, such as JAMPRO and GSESA, as well as our other agents in government, we are strategically positioning Jamaica to be a major player in the international logistics global supply chain, to join the giants in the industry such as Rotterdam, Dubai, and Singapore. So along with the expansion in the Panama Canal comes not only with increasing demand for logistics supports, we are also looking to take on the advantage of what should be an increase in the need of bunkering or fuel supply, as well as more industry workers such as marine pilots, ship repair technicians, electrotechnical officers, stevedores, cargo brokers, logisticians. Our manufacturing, distribution, and skill building institutions must position and equip themselves to benefit from these economic opportunities. The stories are of highly profitable logistic companies such as UPS, FedEx, JB Hunt, shows that success in the industry, as with others, require constant readjustment to the fitness your procedures in line with changing demands. For instance, lessons learned from the disruption in the global supply chain are that supply chain has to be shortened to avoid excessive shipping and freighting rates, space shortages, and long wait time. This presents another opportunity for us as a near-shore destination, especially to North American market, where we share similar time zone and language. The government of Jamaica is therefore committed to embracing the current uncertainties to ensure that our citizens are equipped to benefit from the opportunities presented in this new era. We're expanding our digital footprint right across Jamaica, upskilling our workforce with associated skills through our National Coding in Schools program across government services, touch points to ensure that we participate fully in the digital economy, where end-to-end is made easier and result in a thriving economy. So as the arm of government mandated to grow the industries the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce look forward to continuing our engagement with stakeholders in the logistics industry to ensure that the right climate is created to grow and sustain your businesses. As I close, I congratulate the leadership of CMU for the sterling work you have been undertaking to prepare young people from Jamaica and further afield for logistics and related industries. This institution has become a highly desired place of learning and economic landscape in Jamaica and the wider Caribbean. We're benefiting from the skills that they bring to the marketplace. I wish for you all a successful and productive 2 days of deliberations at this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Dunn. That's a lot of excitement. And we look forward to being key stakeholders in that bit of excitement. Ladies and gentlemen, we are 21st century. And so I'm going to invite you to go on Instagram, wherever you have social media. We do have 2 hashtags that we're working with this morning. If it's foreign language, then find somebody under age 25 and check that out. I'm being horrible, I'm not. But please, hashtag, feel free. CMU, capital letters for CMU, CONF 2022, or CMU Conference, hashtag CMU Conference. And let us take some pictures, share the excitement, take a picture of the cover of the program and send it out. And when things are at rest, we have a photo point. Put on your best smile and get it out there somewhere. And because we are now fully technology-based, we have some members of our team who did not get to come to Jamaica for different reasons. One is that some folks are grounded in Miami, and our keynote speaker is very dynamic. When the airport closed in Miami, he flew to New York, and he'll be landing shortly. So we're going to save space on him further down, space here for him. The executive director of the Antigua Barbuda Port Authority cannot not come, so he's on his way. And he would have taken a yacht if that's what was necessary, but he's on his way. We'll take 2 greetings now, and then we are going to just change up the program just a little touch because of that. We did say we're smack in the middle of Maritime Awareness Week, and World Maritime Day is today, so you can greet your colleagues. Happy World Maritime Day. We have an organization in the region that is called the Women in Maritime Association of the Caribbean. And President Tamara and I, Admiral Brady, are going to start a student chapter in the CMU this academic year, Professor Spencer. And we are going to do, my colleague Valerie Simpson is here. Just wave, Valerie. She's sitting in for our president, who is from Dominica. And President Tamara has sent greetings, and we are going to see that greeting from the screen at this moment. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you, though virtually, the president of the Women in Maritime Association of the Caribbean and a key stakeholder in tropical shipping in Dominica, Ms. Tamara Lowe. She's on screen.
Caribbean Maritime University, and to everyone present here today. It is indeed an honor to have the opportunity to bring greetings to you from WIMAC, Women in Maritime Association Caribbean. I am Tamara Lowe, the president of WIMAC. Let me first of all start off by saying Happy World Maritime Day, which we are celebrating under the theme Newer Technologies for Greener Shipping. As we explore the theme of this conference, end-to-end logistics, opportunities in the era of uncertainty, I want to stress the importance of such a powerful forum. Here we are, academics, shipping lines, seafarers, women in maritime, all coming together to sit and have a conversation about how to solve our problems. We all bring our experience, our expertise with one goal, moving the maritime industry to sustainability. I look forward to the outcome of this conference, and we at WEMAC pledge our commitment and our contribution to this conversation.
And WEMAC is a fairly new organization, but starting this academic year, we will have a student from Belize who is a recipient of a scholarship through the Women in Maritime Association, and she'll be studying for a Bachelor in Engineering, Industrial Engineering at the Caribbean Maritime University. And we look forward to welcoming Geneva to Jamaica because of WEMAC's initiative. Another organization which has been very, very helpful to us and a key stakeholder in offering opportunities for learning and academic certification is an organization by the name of the American Caribbean Maritime Association. The American Caribbean Maritime Foundation, the executive director is Dr. Genevieve Brown-Metzger, former Consul General of Jamaica to New York, Minister Dunn. And she would have been here, but the airport's closed before she got out of Miami. And so she has sent her greetings this morning. I invite you to turn to the screen again to see the greetings from Dr. Genevieve Brown-Metzger, the principal of ACMF.
Good morning, Admiral Peter Brady, Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education, Honorable Dr. Norman Dunn, Minister of State, Industry, Investment and Commerce, Dr. Darwin Telemack, CEO, Antigua and Barbuda Port Authority and Chairman, Port Management Association of the Caribbean, CMU staff and participants. It is my pleasure to join you this morning. I apologize for not being with you in person, but my flight was canceled at the last minute due to the hurricane. Given the theme of this conference, end-to-end logistics, opportunities in an era of uncertainty, the irony is not lost on me in that the logistics that would cause me to be with you in person have been dominated by an act of God. Nonetheless, it makes the point that we should be focused on the opportunities in times of uncertainty. As many of you may know, the American Caribbean Maritime Foundation is a member of the CMU family, and we take our role very seriously in supporting and helping to bring up the next generation of Caribbean maritime professionals. We share that vision with you, whether you are Caribbean ministers of government, maritime career professionals, teachers and professors, or donors. We share your values of self-determination that the Caribbean can push towards becoming a global brand in the maritime industry. Over the last 5 years that the foundation has been in existence, we have taken cues from CARICOM decisions and policies as to priorities in education and in the shipping industry. We have held on to the vision and mission of the CARICOM with respect to putting a greater focus on the maritime sector, and we have followed the Caribbean Maritime University's lead in working towards a greater vision for our youth of excellence and leadership. There will be much discussion as you treat key topics such as the cruise industry post-pandemic, risk and vulnerability in the supply chain, blue economy and sustainability, and education and training. It is my hope that the outcome of this conference will not only make us smarter, but more equipped to find solutions, new paradigms of engagement and partnerships that will improve the maritime sector as we look towards the next decade and beyond. Thank you for having me, and I wish you a very successful conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening so intently through this session. We are going to pause at this time with greetings, and I'm going to invite Professor Spencer to take his esteemed panel and be seated in the audience, but I'll ask Admiral Brady to stay. I'm going to invite Professor Ajaguna to bring up the members of the panel discussion so we can use time well, because Mr. Telemack is still not here. And we are going to go right to our panel discussion, which centers on the theme of the conference, end-to-end logistics, opportunities in an era of uncertainty. Panel should have been chaired by Dr. Jenny Brown-Metzger, but I'm going to invite Professor Jaguna to proxy. And I'm going to invite to the podium to join the panel Dr. Eric Deans, Maritime and Logistics Specialist and Special Economic Zone Expert. And I'm going to also invite to the panel Ms. Sandra Casanova, the President and Founder of Cluster GATS Carib, Logistics and Transport, and they will be properly introduced at the right time. Mr. Gordon, un moment s'il vous plaît. Archie. You'd appreciate that the switch is a little sudden, so we're settling. Angela, we have our member of staff, Miss Angela Marie Williams, and she has an item that I'm going to ask her to bring at this time as we settle the panel for presentation. See, she's a little vertically. You want me to get something up here while you come in, Angela? Okay. In Jamaica, we would say she's short, but she's not short or nothing.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. All protocols observed. To God be the glory. I have an item for you, and I need your participation as well. When I say, onward, all on board, I want you to say, aye, aye, Captain. Let's try it. All on board? Oh, come on, you eat breakfast this morning. God wake you up with luster and vigor. All on board? Oh, not so bad. Let's get into it. CMU affirmation. I am CMU. Watch me roar. Onwards will I rise, sophisticated to the core. Above all uncertainty, above all demise, I will rise. With God Almighty as the chief commander, exerting his supernatural power, he stilled the storms to a whisper. The waves of the seas were hushed. No more heart sinking, stomachs wretched, no more sadness. Forgetting the former etchings, no more faces wearing doom or gloom. I am CMU. Watch me soar. A seafarer on a mission, not by might, nor by power, nor by competition, but with the help of the Holy Spirit power. Watch me tread the high seas, overcoming each obstacles. The wind of change is here, fulfilling purpose and vision. All on board! Aye, aye, Captain. Onward, forward, CMU, churning the seas by ways of logistics, taking new frontiers, creating history. God gets the glory. He rewrites our story. We will fight with loyalty, putting shoulders to the wheel together in unity. We hoist the sail, muster the courage that set a sail, blazing the logistics trail amidst turbulent weather and rough seas. We aim for fair weather and blue skies. All aboard! Aye, aye, Captain, determined, steadfast, and focus, honesty, and integrity, sailing at high mast, transforming lives, motivating, educating. Teammates, are you with me? Aye, aye, Captain. Together we stand, together we heal this noble university. Redefining maritime excellence through quality assurance, innovation, and technology. I am shipping and logistics, marine and nautical studies, engineering and applied technology, general studies, graduate studies, Center for Security and Counter-Terrorism. I am CMU. You are CMU. We are the Caribbean Maritime University. Dignified we will stand with our heads held high, achieving greatness. All on board! Onward! Forward! CMU, delivering customer service culture, answering the call, leading the charge by changed behavior, promoting smart security, opening doors, fulfilling goals, making ways for the young and the old. We are the home of world-class logistics and industry leaders. Welcome to our 2022 Caribbean Maritime University Conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Angela. In fact, when she did the rehearsal sometimes last week, I didn't know it was going to be pulled out this way. You know we have a talent at the Caribbean Maritime University. Good morning again, all protocols observed at this time. If you look at your program, you see Dr. Genevieve Brown Mesga. That is not me. I am Ibrahim Ajaguna. And I have a panel with me here this morning. 3 distinguished persons in academics and in the industry. I am going to introduce them very quickly. I am not here to make a presentation, so I wouldn't waste much time, but to go into the introduction. It was said earlier on that Genevieve Mesga could not make it out of Fort Lauderdale up till late last night. But surprisingly, I must say that Sandra Casanova, who is here with us, traversed, I think, about 5 countries before she eventually got to Montego Bay. And she's coming from another island which is 2 hours from here. So we see the problem of connectivity in Caribbean. We've been talking about this for the past 5 decades or thereabout, and we are yet to find solution to it. One of the reasons why we're having this conference today and tomorrow, and we're going to be hearing from different persons, different perspectives, issues that affect the Caribbean. Let me especially welcome 3 individuals who are present with us here this morning. Chris Milley and Shannon Wood. They are both from Dalhousie University, Canada, and they have come to attend this conference here. Please, let's have it for them. And I also have another gentleman from Canada who is with us here, specifically for this conference as well, and he's Dr. Keshinro. And this is not Keshinro from CMU. This is another Keshinro. He's over there. Thank you for coming, sir. Our panel will be speaking to the topic, to the theme of this conference, end-to-end logistics, opportunity in an era of uncertainty. Introduce the 3 of them, and they will come in that order to speak to you. Thereafter, we open the floor for questions, comments, and they will all respond. The first to come on the podium is Rear Admiral Retired Peter Brady, who is the Director General, Maritime Authority of Jamaica. Rear Admiral has 34 years of military experience, having served at the highest capacity as Chief of Staff of the Jamaica Defense Force. And he was awarded a postgraduate degree in maritime management from Dalhousie University. So you have your colleagues here, Admiral, from Dalhousie. And he has received several accolades, including the Commander of the Royal Victorian Order, Commander of the Order of Distinction, and the Legion of Merit Commander USA. Rear Admiral Brady has served as guest lecturer in Maritime Safety Administration and Maritime Security at the World Maritime University, and also at Dalhousie University, Canada, and was recently appointed to the Board of Governors of the World Maritime University in Malmö, Sweden. This appointment for will serve for two years, and it will end February 28, 2024. He was a board member of the university since 2007, and he has served for 17 good years, including as the vice chancellor of that university. Rear Admiral Brady is the first and only Jamaican to be asked to serve the World Maritime University in that capacity. And to follow with Admiral is Professor Eric Deans. Professor Deans is a recognized special economic zone expert, and he's equally a logistics expert. He is formerly chairman, Jamaica Logistics Task Force, and chief executive officer, Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority. Probably I should pause here to let you know that through the work of Eric Deans, the logistics and supply chain at the Caribbean Maritime University got a boost when he was actually promoting Jamaica as the 4th node logistics hub. So we need to give it to Dr. Deans. He's currently consulting on several large-scale special economic zones, including Grand Ridge Mediterranean City, Seaview Eco-Industrial Logistics Park, and Quantum Industrial Park, which he is the founder himself. Professor Dean is also doing some postdoctoral research, which is a continuation of his PhD dissertation that was entitled Cargo Flow Dynamics Influenced by the Expansion of the Panama Canal. That work produced a breakthrough random utility maximization model which predicted which ports in the United States will benefit most from the expansion of the Panama Canal. He's now looking at factors that maximize the utility of special economic zone developers in an era defined by globalization. And the last person to come on the podium to talk to us is Sandra Casanova, who is the president and founder of Cluster Gas Caribbean Logistics and Transport, which was established in 2012. She is an advisor to the Assembly of the Territorial Collectivity of Martinique, and she is president of the Commission for Territorial Logistics Strategies, Research and Innovation for Gender Equity. Between 2010 and 2016, Sandra was vice president, MEDEF Martinique, and president of the Caribbean Cooperation Committee. During this period, she was also a member of the Regional Consultative Committee, which issues certificates and documentary proof of professional competence on transport and commissioners. You can see that we have three powerful persons that are going to be talking to us in the next 1 hour. Please help me welcome the three of them to the podium. Rear Admiral, the podium is yours now.
It's on now. It's on now.
It's on? Okay. Right. I'm just waiting for the slide to come. Where's Archibald? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again, CMU, for inviting me to participate in this distinguished panel, fellow panelists, guests, participants. It is a great pleasure to see the CMU coming back on its feet after such a long time suffering and enduring this dreaded pandemic. It's nice for you to be putting on this particular event at this time as we close off this year amid lots of things happening, the most recent one impacting very negatively some of the people who should have been here today. But also we're still suffering from all kinds of things happening in the world, including, I call them conflicts, because other people may call them wars, but for the time being I call them conflicts. I'm hoping that I have a slide here will come up. I don't see it. Somebody can help me? Oh, it's on the screen? Oh, okay. Let me go back then. I'll turn around until that one comes up. Consider, everybody, the volume of trade which goes by sea, which, as you heard more than once in the opening ceremony, 90% of that volume goes by sea, but however, 80% of the value of world trade actually takes place by sea, and they're conveyed in ships. Persons outside the shipping and logistics system do not realize this fact, as they take it for granted that any commodity they need and found on the shelves, having been brought also by Amazon and company, get there somehow, some way. The simple ditty, which I'm about to say, illustrates just how critical important maritime trade is. And it's, if we didn't have ships, half the world would freeze and the other half would starve. And that's a stark fact. However, sometimes even people who work ashore in the factory or on the assembly line do not realize that the ships which bring cargo to our ports, and mostly on schedule, operate in a highly regulated international legal regime with stringent maritime safety and security rules and standards, along with very strict, and I emphasize these days, very strict environmental requirements developed by the UN Specialized Agency, the International Maritime Organization. So therefore, international shipping must observe the rules and standards developed at the international level and brought into our individual domestic legislation so that they can be implemented by our flagships, most of which are of the states members of the International Maritime Organization. In Jamaica's case, it is brought into what is called the Shipping Act of Jamaica. At the heart of the industry, as was underscored by myself and other speakers at the beginning, are the people who operate these ships, the seafarers who showed up for duties during this dreaded COVID-19 pandemic and endured, including being stuck in some countries which did not recognize their special status, as was requested by the IMO. Crew changes were erratic. Crews who had done their time at sea and needed to be repatriated were disturbed. Their patterns were disturbed. However, the dedicated crews kept the supply chain moving. Thank God Jamaica very early in the pandemic acquiesced to the request of the Secretary General of the International Maritime Organization to designate these seafarers as key workers. But we actually went, as I had indicated earlier in my opening remarks, we went a step further and enshrined the term essential workers in the Disaster Risk Management Act, which gave them special recognition, and the Maritime Authority of Jamaica created a special web portal to interview them and give them their passage, if you may, through a safe corridor in Jamaica. So we were asked today to speak about our role in creating opportunities in shipping industry and maritime education and training in Jamaica. I thought I would firstly circumscribe the task around our mandate and roles for some context. So we are a regulatory body of the Ministry of Transport and Mining. Our mandate is to pursue the development of shipping and to regulate matters relating to merchant shipping and seafarers. And this breaks out into several functions. And as you can see there on the screen, the classical maritime administration functions there. And I have put beside item 1 and D to differentiate between the regulatory and the development functions. So 1, registration of ships, and 7, administration policy for the development of shipping in general as developmental functions. So, how do the development and regulatory function allow for the creation of opportunities in the shipping industry? Well, we do ship registration. We'd like to be a big ship registry, but we haven't been able to get there yet because we don't have the wherewithal to compete with countries such as Panama, Marshall Islands, and Liberia. However, one of the reasons that we haven't grown in this regard is we haven't been able to do the kind of marketing in the international shipping centers to stamp the floor, so to speak. However, we are very careful about observing the IMO rules. So, by having ships registered in the flag, we therefore create opportunities for Jamaican seafarers to staff these ships, to man these ships in both the nautical and in the marine engineering side of the business. We regulate the certification of seafarers, and Jamaica's certification standards are grounded in what is called the Standards of Training and Certificate of Watchkeeping Convention of the IMO, which has actually been enshrined in our domestic legislation. We are accredited by the IMO and recognized globally for the quality of our certificates of competency. We regulate, therefore, the certification of seafarers in Jamaica through an oversight, regulatory, if you may, oversight of the Caribbean Maritime University's marine and education and training programs. So we do that in a number of ways. The CMU has to have a quality standard, and they have a very good one, the ISO standards, which again we audit the CMU on an annual basis. And we actually write the examinations, give them to the CMU for their cadets and officers to sit, for both in CMU nautical and marine engineering students. And we examine right up to the level of masters and chief engineers. Now, in so doing, we therefore afford these Jamaicans a ready opportunity with their qualifications, recognized globally, to work on board flagships in Jamaica. This creates good work for Jamaica. So the convention, which, as I reminded, is enshrined in our Shipping Act, allows for what is called reciprocal recognition of certificates of competencies by the International Maritime Organization member states. What it means is that our seafarers can work on the flagships of other countries, some of them mentioned here in this slide, on a reciprocal basis, whereby theirs can also work on our flagships. This, again, has created a bunch of opportunities for our seafarers with qualifications, whereby they can work on flagships with whom we have concluded reciprocal arrangements. So it also allows for our cadets who have not yet taken their examinations, have not yet obtained their certificates of competencies, but need what is called the qualifying sea time at sea on board ships that are internationally trading. We regulate safety in Jamaica as regard construction of ships and navigation, including for the water sports industry, fishing, and so on. This promotes Jamaica as a good investment for major activities, including bunkering and dry docking, because the investors see that Jamaica has a strong safety system in place based on the international conventions. So, for instance, we create opportunities for marine surveyors because a ship has to observe some statutory requirements for inspections ever so often, and they have to be inspected by qualified marine surveyors. And the people who graduate from the Caribbean Maritime University, right up to the level of Class 1, qualify to become surveyors and marine inspectors. Again, this helps to promote Jamaica as a strong country with solid rules and standards. And we have an activity in Jamaica called local trade, which is equivalent to cabotage. This means that Jamaica can allow foreign flag ships to operate in our maritime space to do things that we do not have vessels, Jamaican flag vessels, to do. This also creates many, many opportunities for seafarers who don't necessarily want to go to sea anymore, but will continue to operate on ships that are conducting activities in our region. Our regulatory role also created jobs where people have to enforce the SOLAS, the ISPS, MARPOL conventions. For instance, ships that come in here with waste generated on board have to discharge their wastes. And so there are companies that have set up themselves to collect this waste under the conditions that are laid down by the MARPOL convention, and they dispose of them in a proper way. we make inquiries also for shipwrecks and casualties. It is a requirement to do investigations into marine casualties, and that's one of our primary roles at the Maritime Authority of Jamaica. We ensure that wrecks are removed so that our waters remain navigable, and this again instills confidence in safe navigation around Jamaica. But also, some of the wrecks which will not be removed or refloated have residual value in the form of scrap metal, and this is a growing industry in Jamaica. We administer policy for the development of shipping in general. What we do is to meet with potential investors to discuss a number of marine projects that can take place in Jamaica. A lot of new activities, for instance, that are taking place in the water sports industry. For instance, recently we had an application from somebody to provide a service with an amphibious craft. This was a pretty new one for us. However, it wasn't hard to request some information from our counterparts in other places of the world in order to set it up. And so we were able to give the go-ahead, if you may, for this activity to take place. Offshore wind farms, very, very topical these days. The investors usually come to us because, as you know, wind farms offshore sometimes create a problem for surface navigation. And therefore, we have to make sure that these farms are properly placed outside of shipping lanes or frequently used lanes. Also, we create opportunities for bunkering and dry docking. And Jamaica finally is going to get a proper dry dock in the next year, when a company that has been exploring this possibility and working out all the details has finally now gotten the go-ahead to establish this dry dock. So those are some of the opportunities then that the Maritime Authority in its roles and functions create for the industry, including our very important role of oversight of the maritime education and training programs that take place at the Caribbean Maritime University, whereby the ultimate aim is to issue certificates of competency that are recognized globally by other member states. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Admiral. We're not going to take questions or comments at this time until we have the three members of the panel make their presentation. So at this time, I invite Professor Dean to the podium.
Good morning. Good morning. Oh, that's much better. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here this morning. Members of the panel, it's an honor to be part of such a distinguished panel. Admiral Brady, you brought back memories of my time at the Maritime Authority and the ship registry and trying to get ships under the Jamaican flag. It's good to see my good friend Sandra Casanova, who will be speaking after, and Professor Ibrahim, my good friend and colleague. Well, I'm going to be speaking today on the topic end-to-end logistics, and what are some of the opportunities that are available. And as you know, we're still in a period of uncertainty coming out of the COVID pandemic. And it was Winston Churchill who said, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." What this implies is that in every crisis, there are opportunities. But first, let me start by defining the term logistics. I know many of you here are from the CMU, but I still find that providing a simple definition of logistics is always useful. And the term I use is logistics is the management of supply chains. It's very easy to remember and very easy to understand. In this presentation, I will focus on last mile logistics. We're speaking about end-to-end, but I'm going to be focusing in this presentation on the last mile activities. Many of you would have heard about the severe supply chain disruptions that occurred during the pandemic, and we're continuing to experience some of those challenges. But fortunately, the logistics sector was one of the few sectors to benefit from the COVID-19 pandemic. Hence, it benefited from the opportunities presented in the COVID crisis. Now, okay. So during the pandemic, the last mile delivery created a lot more challenges than solutions because, as you know, with the difficulty of couriers and having to have separation and so on, it created challenges both for the person delivering packages and the person receiving because you don't know if they're carrying more than just a package. And the question arose, what will be the future of retail delivery coming from the experience of COVID and with customers being more digitally connected? What I'll be speaking about today is smart lockers, or what are called automated parcel machines, which are at the revolutionary forefront of last mile package delivery automation. And this has been triggered by the growth in e-commerce, because what the pandemic resulted in and what logistics companies like Amazon and Alibaba benefited from was more people started, instead of going in shops or going to grocery stores or going to pharmacies, would buy things online and have them delivered to their home. But the challenge that posed, or one of the major cost implications for courier companies, is when persons are not at home, it results in them having to make multiple deliveries to those customers. So we have seen a growth in the automated parcel locker system, which provides convenient retrieval and drop-off options for customers and couriers alike. With the APM system and the technology involved, retailers can maximize the number of parcel deliveries they make in a day. And you can see from this diagram what it is. Now, it is essentially a storage box that comes in different sizes. How it works is when a person makes an order online, they choose whether they want the delivery option to be at a parcel locker machine. And these machines are usually strategically located in communities close to where persons are. It's not as popular this side of the world, but in Europe, it is taking off exponentially. So these terminals of parcel lockers are being located in neighborhood pharmacies, supermarkets, post office, even in apartment buildings, making it more so when a person goes online, they're able to order, select a location, the location closest to them, and the courier company will deliver it to a box in that locker terminal. The customer will get a notification on their phone with a code that they take to the locker, the barcode or a QR code, and it verifies that the person whose package it is, and that locker is then, respective locker is opened, they close it back, and that locker now becomes available for the next customer. Now this is revolutionary in terms of last mile delivery, right? So what we will be looking at is how we are leveraging the advantage of this future-ready approach while eliminating the risk of loss and delayed parcel deliveries. So let me just give you a quick overview of the market. Now, Jamaica, along with the rest of the world, is at the beginning of an e-commerce boom arising from COVID. And as I mentioned before, it has been driving the e-commerce sector. Across the globe, there are anywhere between 12 and 24 million online shops. The reason that number is so wide, because every day, even traditional retailers are now going online. So the number of online shops are increasing every day. When these statistics were produced, I mean, there were 2.14 billion global online shoppers. In the US alone, 263 million online shoppers. In Asia and Europe, I mean, Asia, 51% of all sales were online. Now, this market is expected to grow to almost 11 trillion between 2021 and 2025. So we're seeing, this is an ongoing trend that we're experiencing. And Jamaica is at the cusp of benefiting from this. So, recognizing that the last mile delivery is the most challenging part, this is due to the fact that it represents 50% of the cost of delivering that package. But the persons who are deploying these technologies recognize that the power rests in the hands of the consumer. The consumers have choice. Now, we are marrying this development with Jamaica's goal to develop its logistics ecosystem, the Logistics Hub Initiative, and the other global trade factors which are driving the growth of global commerce. In a globalized world, we're seeing more cross-border commerce. So, be advised, look out for this upcoming trend with these parcel lockers. You'll start to see them appearing when you travel, particularly in Europe, you see them a lot. But companies like UPS, FedEx, DHL are also starting to deploy them in the US, and hopefully we can play a part in the deployment here in Jamaica. So this is just a diagram showing Jamaica's strategic position between North America and South America, which is how we benefit from our Logistics Hub Initiative. Now, being in this location, we benefit both from a maritime perspective, but also from an aviation perspective. Once our aviation sector develops to the level of our maritime sector, we'll truly become a world-class logistics hub. So, what we intend to do in Jamaica is addressing these challenges which are faced with the last mile and setting up a network of indoor parcel lockers in Jamaica. We have seen the benefits of this innovative technology in Europe, in Asia, with North America gaining momentum. So you would have heard that I'm the founder of Quantum Industrial Park. This is an artist's impression, the architectural drawings for the park. It's a 10-acre special economic zone which will be located in Maypen. The first question persons ask me, why Maypen? Well, Maypen is in the center of Jamaica. From Maypen, you can reach anywhere in the country from within 1 hour travel time. So putting our central fulfillment facility in the center of the island is a logical place to put a logistics facility. That's a tongue twister. So this facility is 180,000 square feet of state-of-the-art warehousing, distribution, and manufacturing space. We're in the process of reviewing expressions of interest from various companies as far away as Eastern Europe, where, as you know, Admiral, there's some conflict taking place in that side of the world. So companies in Eastern Europe are looking at relocating to our logistics hub or central location to carry out their activities. So this facility will house a 3PL logistics facility, which may or may not occupy the majority of the space, depending on how we see the demand going for the logistics services. And this will create opportunities for many of my colleagues I see dressed in white at the back there. These are some of the opportunities which we are seeking to create. So this slide shows that it takes just 47 minutes from the Port of Kingston to get into the Quantum Logistics Park in Maypen and our fulfillment center. So again, if you go anywhere in the world, I mean, having a 45 commute from the port for an industrial location is very convenient. So, and it's along, you know, the Highway 2000, which is, you know, a very modern and convenient transportation leg. So from our center, we will create a network of 500 terminals once it's fully rolled out, and these will be located all across the country. So the control center, which will manage all the order taking and the delivery scheduling and everything, will be in Maypen, and these will be connected to the 500 terminals based across the country. So we intend to offer quick, personalized, convenient parcel goods service. In most cases, we will do it within 24 hours or by next day. The 180,000 square foot center will benefit from an agnostic approach, meaning we will not be just doing it for our own couriers, but will be open to other couriers like a UPS, a FedEx, a DHL, to also use those terminals to place their packages, because it's all about utilization. As I mentioned, the more turnover you have of these lockers is the more productivity and benefits you get out of it. And I said, operating from a centralized facility, our cost of logistics will be lower and therefore much more efficient and cost competitive. Other things that we'll be doing in the warehouse to make it, in terms of the trends that we are taking advantage of, is where possible, we'll be using autonomous mobile robots, particularly for the online services, not so much for the full pallet loads and things, but where we have high volume parcels in which to move to ensure accuracy and efficiency, we'll be using robots. This will be connected to a modern warehouse execution system. This is the next generation to warehouse management systems. We'll be using some goods to person picking solution from some of the latest technology providers like AutoStore. Even robotic stretch wrapping machines. These are some of the trends and opportunities that we are taking advantage of coming out of what we're seeing in the logistics space. I also want to speak about automatic storage and retrieval systems. I'm speaking to some of our good friends about looking at going into the duty-free space. As you know, in duty-free shopping in particular, there are a lot of high-value items, and you don't want a lot of interaction with those goods, because especially if they're small parcels. So much of that will be done through automatic storage and retrieval systems, which we will deploy. I mentioned about the warehouse execution system. We'll also be putting in place transport management systems to manage the fleet of couriers and so on. So, in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen, every crisis, there are opportunities. Never waste a good crisis. So we are looking to ride the trend of the automated parcel machines, and we look forward to deploying it in Jamaica with your help. Thank you very much.
Quickly, we go to our third panelist, Sandra Casanova. I failed to let you know earlier that Sandra is a past student of CMU. She completed her master's in logistics and supply chain management, and she graduated in 2017, if I can remember. Sandra, yes. The floor is yours now.
So, Honorable Norman Dunn, Minister of State Industry, Investment and Commerce, Honorable Olivier Guillaume, French Ambassador to Jamaica and Permanent Representative of France to the Seabed Authority, Rear Admiral Peter Brady, Director General Maritime Authority of Jamaica, Chair HR Committee CMU Council, Professor Andrew Spencer, CMU President, my co-panelists, my former teachers and friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, bonjour. It's my pleasure to be here again and to speak at this conference. Jamaica has become my second home, and I am very proud to be associated with such a noble and important institution like the Caribbean Maritime University. What is the most important things a man needs if he wants to build? The will to do it. So, first of all, I would like to say, 10 years ago, I started the cluster GATT Caraïbes because I really wanted to build a link between the Greater Caribbean and Martinique, French West Indies. And I met people from Jamaica, and I focus a lot on what can we do together between Martinique and maybe the French Caribbean with Jamaica. And then I'm, yes, the president of Cluster GATT Caraïbes, but I'm also the chairman of the Special Committee Transport of Association of the Caribbean States. So I continue this work, and I really ask you, because I really want to continue to work with you, and in particular with Jamaica. So once again, thank you. Thank you for your invitation. So, as Professor Ajaguna said, I obtained my master's degree in logistics and supply chain management from this school, and I can tell you that I am very proud to be a part of the CMU family, because for me, CMU is my Jamaican family. So, this university continues to follow up on me, and for that, thank you very much. I am growing in the industry, and I also want the acknowledgement of my country. As I told you, I'm in Martinique in charge of territorial logistics strategy, and I have other duties in other organizations, Caribbean organizations. So, yes, end-to-end logistics opportunities is in an era of uncertainty. Let me start by saying that amid a worldwide recovery from COVID-19 and the unfortunate war between Ukraine and Russia, the trend of growing trade between nations continues to be impacted. The efficient operation of terminals, air and sea ports, and shipping of goods is becoming more and more important for shippers. It has become a significant issue for port operators, for example, to systematize the management of their operations and maximize the possibility to efficient door-to-door or end-to-end delivery of goods to customers. In recent times, with step-up development of container transportation and flourishing trade, ports play a vital role in the whole process of logistics and supply chain management. Ports and maritime services play a substantial role in shipping, since 90% of imports and exports are carried either by air and sea. The level of efficiency of ports directly impacts overall cost to the final consumers. Lower levels of service efficiency and higher shipping costs has resulted in higher import costs and reduced export returns, which in turn have a negative impact on the competitiveness of a shipper's economies. Sustained globalization and global logistics require a transport network that is both dense and efficient. So the theme for this year's conference, end-to-end logistics, opportunities in an era of uncertainty, is appropriate when we talk about sustainability of transport and logistics in less connected Caribbean countries. Let's talk about issues and opportunities with the Greater Caribbean. The regional, let me verify. Yes. The regional transport sector forms the basis for economic activity by facilitating the movement of goods and people within the Greater Caribbean. Caribbean islands face the challenges of small domestic markets and limited maritime routes, and thus limit regional connectivity. These issues cannot be ignored if the Caribbean is to fare well in the global environment. The Association of Caribbean States, for example, continues to work to unlock the potential of intra-regional economic activity through the expansion of transport and logistics systems at the regional and international levels. The fundamental objective of the ACS is to enhance the region's access to regional and international markets to support the competitiveness and resilience of the regional transport sector. Fundamental also is an ongoing program to support the development of an integrated, resilient transport system in the Greater Caribbean. This includes, but not limited to, the following: maritime and logistics strategy, regional air connectivity strategy, sustainable transport program, establishment of a regional ferry network, especially in the Eastern Caribbean. As transport remains a foundational aspect of business activity, cross-sectoral collaboration has been emphasized to capitalize on synergies across the focal areas of sustainable tourism, transport, and trade. These transversal topics include the following, like data-driven decision-making, like omni-channel platform, for example, Phoenix, digital transformation, capacity building program, continuous program of research. So let's talk about Martinique. The island of Martinique is well positioned within the Greater Caribbean to play an integral role in the regional and global trading system by facilitating the movement of goods, persons, and data around the Greater Caribbean and the world. Under the leadership of the Martinique territorial authorities, President Serge Letchimy, Martinique has strengthened its regional integration in the Caribbean being both a Caribbean territory and an outermost region of the European Union. This has been done by becoming an associate member of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, ICLAC, and the Association of Caribbean States, ACS. Martinique has also submitted its application as an associate member of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM. In this way, Martinique carries out its territorial diplomacy, allowing it to assert its influence and its desire to co-build the Greater Caribbean. In the framework of the European Union and Cotonou Agreement, in which Jamaica is a signatory country and part of the Forum of Caribbean States, CARIFORUM, Martinique can participate as an EU outermost region in the Caribbean. The EU ACP and EU CARIFORUM agreements allow for the strengthening of regional cooperation, customs facilitation, and enhanced trade with CARIFORUM states as part of the Economic Partnership Agreement, better known as EPA. As we know, logistics and supply chains have become more global as increasingly production and management operations are being outsourced and moved offshore. As a result, larger container ship and air cargo are playing a critical role in global supply chain performance. With the increase in types of organization and the importance of maritime transport and logistics service providers within the logistics space have equally grown. By this means, Martinique and the French Caribbean could no longer sit and wait while the entire world is moving at a rapid rate. By these forces of larger container ship and bigger cargo and passenger planes, air and seaport operators globally have been forced to respond accordingly by dredging the access channels to their ports and harbors, expand and increase the length of the runway, source more technologically advanced port equipment to support post-Panamax vessels, expand storage areas and sheds to accommodate the larger volumes of cargo being discharged or stored, and create logistics parks close to the ports to allow for value-added initiative and the processing of agricultural and manufacturing products. The last point is very significant for Martinique, given its position like a door between the Caribbean and the EU markets, which is also in line with this year's conference theme. It is important to note that global sourcing has resulted in cost savings as products are obtained directly at lower unit price due to low labor cost. This one factor has allowed firms in North America and Western Europe, for example, to enter purchasing agreements with foreign manufacturing companies thousands of miles apart. Why not Martinique? The island of Martinique possesses some of the conditions utilized by these foreign firms in choosing their country partners or their consolidated distribution centers. There are many activities within the logistics and supply chain field that facilitate value-added services. These activities take their roots from ICT evolution and new logistical functions. Martinique is poised to create a logistics park as standalone facilities that will engage in the storage and movement of commodities, work on raw materials and semi-finished products, services and data between logistics operator, private, public, to fulfill and conform to the customer, trade and customs requirements. These logistics activities fall into three categories: general logistics service, value-added logistics, general value-added logistics services. All these above are carried out within end-to-end. We also noticed that during the COVID-19, The trend was to source regionally and to produce as close as possible to the regional market. Martinique, and as the rest of the Greater Caribbean, must also consider this and promote the indigenous economy and short supply chains. Finally, I would like to take advantage of this opportunity to invite you all in Martinique to participate at the ACS Connectivity Conference in March 2023. Once again, I thank the CMU for inviting me to be a part of this very informative conference. I have learned, and I know I will learn more from other presenters during the course of these 2 days. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sandra. I will add something to what I said earlier on. For her interest in Jamaica and the Caribbean Maritime University, in 2018, Sandra actually facilitated 2 of our students to have their internship in Martinique. And I must say those students are currently in France working. So that is the type of support she has given to us. And I want to use this to announce to the logistics and supply chain students that are in here now, don't leave. Make sure you have Sandra's number before you leave. Thank you very much, panel. Admiral, Professor Deans, and Sandra. I think the presentation were very, very informative. And I didn't know much about the MAJ as much as I learned this morning from my Admiral's presentation, to include, let me use this opportunity to welcome our minister to this conference. And I must also say to you that the keynote speaker is coming behind the minister. Yeah, I think he should be about 2 or 3 minutes from this room now. Yes, I didn't learn so much. I learned so much from MAJ from your presentation, sir. So also from Dr. Dean. But one thing that fascinates me about your presentation is the number of global online shoppers, which stands at 2.14 million. Retail stores, we stand at 2.1 billion, 2.14 billion. Retail stores, 2.1 billion, and it is amazing to see how we have taken the business of logistics. And Sandra closed it up with all those fascinating issue between what is happening between the Greater Caribbean and the French Caribbean. And what are we looking into between ourselves? What is Martinique or the French Caribbean looking forward to gain from the Greater Caribbean, and what Greater Caribbean stand to gain from the French countries? To travel from Jamaica to Guadeloupe is 2 hours flight, but you have to overnight in Antigua. That is very, very disturbing, if I must say. So at this time, I'm going to open the floor for questions and answers. Okay. We will take maybe 1 or 2 questions maximum, because the minister is just passing through, and then we don't want to lose her. So we take 1 or 2 questions, and then we will invite the minister to come and talk to us, and then we continue with our program. You can just press the button on your, if you want to ask questions. We don't need to carry around the microphone. Please raise your hand if you have a question or comment.
Morning.
All right, it will seem to me as if everything is...
Good morning.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Asson.
So I have 2 questions. One for Admiral Brady, and the other question for Professor Deans, but I will start with Admiral Brady. Admiral, we know the role of the small vessels in the drugs and gun trade. In fact, when I used to work in another dispensation, we had severe problems with them. You have spoken about the role of your agency in regulating the larger vessels, but my question is, to what extent are these small vessels regulated by your agency?
Thank you very much for the question. Like you, I don't address serious security matters because I too was in a different dispensation. However, on the regulatory side, in short, the Maritime Authority of Jamaica regulates maritime transportation, which means that any vessel that is capable of carrying a person as a passenger or an operator, vessel is regulated and therefore has to be inspected and issued with a certificate, which is called a seagoing certificate in the case of small vessels. So every vessel in Jamaica that is capable of carrying a person or a passenger is regulated under the Shipping Act. There's no exception at all. I don't know if that sufficiently answers your question.
Yes, sir. And just a follow-up to, just looking at the SOLAS convention, we have seen these people going out to sea is all about their food and maybe their nets and so forth. To what extent they are asked to follow the convention in terms of their own safety at sea?
Okay, as far as possible, the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, abbreviated SOLAS, applies to, generally speaking, applies to convention vessels that the IMO designates. Convention vessels are those commercial vessels that are over 500 gross tons. However, we have small vessel regulations, which are not as stringent naturally as the provisions in the SOLAS Convention, that applies to small vessels' safety, security, and environmental requirements. So if you may, we look at the SOLAS Convention, we look at what other countries have developed which apply to smaller vessels, not convention vessels, and we in turn impose those requirements on the operators of the smaller vessels. So they do not escape at all the regulatory net in that regard.
Thank you, sir. And my other question is comment and question for Prof. Deans. I'm encouraged, sir, by what we have seen in terms of the plans for that terminal. Most times we find that security is brought in at the end of these developments. And as you plan your development, there are a set of people, the transnational criminals, they are just looking at the infrastructure that you are putting into work to use it. So my question to you is whether or not you are engaging the security practitioners to assist with the threat, risk, and vulnerability assessment before you start that type of operation, sir.
Thank you. That's an excellent question. I'm not sure I mentioned that that will be a special economic zone. As such, it will come under the security requirements for being a special economic zone and also come under the customs regulations as a custom-controlled area. But to specifically answer your question, one of the things we recognize in the country, especially when I was at the Special Economic Zone Authority, is that the facilities that you put in place to encourage legitimate trade also facilitate illegitimate activities. So we are very conscious of the risks, the security risks that are going to be faced, and we are taking the appropriate actions and initiatives prior to setting up our arrangement. So yes, we are engaging with security professionals at all levels, both domestically and internationally, to ensure that we have the most secure, not just special economic zone, but in terms of the operations for the automated parcel machines and our 3PL logistics and so on. Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you very much, panel. I think those are the two questions that we are taking.
I have a question. I have a question.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yes,
quickly.
and my question will go to Rear Admiral Peter Brady. So I recently concluded a study looking at Jamaica's status as a seafaring country. And my study revealed that sometimes when the seafarers finish at CMU, they find it difficult to find employment. So my question to you is, in the capacity at the Maritime Administration, can we create a policy that say it is mandatory when a ship register in our registry that they employ at least 2 Jamaicans? So that way we will always ensure that employment is there for CMU students.
Thank you for that question, very important. And for the benefit of other persons in here, there is an absolute requirement for a person, in order to complete their certificates of competency, to have what is called qualifying sea time. And I think this is what you are referring to, in that you may very well complete your initial course of instruction at the Caribbean Maritime University and do not have a ship to readily go on to do that internship, so to speak. And therefore, what can we do from a policy perspective to assist in that development? Well, one of the things that we are doing, and we work closely with the Caribbean Maritime University in this regard, is to make arrangements with those countries, particularly those with whom we have concluded these reciprocal arrangements. Were you here when I spoke about that? And that's a great opportunity for our seafarers to complete their internship, so to speak. So we have already explored that, and it's beginning to show great fruit for us, because very recently we have concluded arrangements with Belgium, with Norway, with the Netherlands, as far away as Kenya, for instance, but we still need to identify more opportunities for this. So what we are using is a platform of the reciprocal arrangement to try to do it on a voluntary basis, because with your own flagships, it is sometimes very, very difficult for the ship to take on seafarers who are not originated in their own area. And in our case, what we try to do there too is to persuade vessels in the Caribbean trade, even if they are foreign flag vessels, to take on the Jamaican seafarers, because it's far less money for them to maintain those seafarers, particularly when they have to do their crew changes and they're sick and the vacation and so on. They don't have to fly them halfway across the world. They're just drop them off in the ports at which these vessels trade. So those are some of the solutions that we are looking at before enforcing the mandatory requirement. Does that satisfy your?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wilson, and thank you very much, panel. Please, once again, can we put our hands together for the three of them? Very informative session. And as they take their leave, I am going to use this opportunity to invite our minister, Honorable Favor Williams, Member of Parliament, Minister of Education and Youth, to please come to the podium to give us our earlier greetings. You were told earlier that the minister was very, very involved this morning, and that is why she's just joining with us. Please help me welcome Minister to the podium.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Could I say that again? Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you so much. Today is a bright and sunny day in Jamaica, not so in every other part of the world. So I believe we have a lot for which we can be thankful. I'm delighted to be here this morning. Let me begin by acknowledging His Excellency, Mr. Oliver Guyan-Varch, okay. Admiral Peter Brady, representing the CMU Council, and other council members who may be here this morning. And of course, you know that Admiral Peter Brady is also the head of the Maritime Authority of Jamaica as well. Let me acknowledge the new president of CMU. Yes. And did everyone see that video of CMU, the new face of CMU? No, before you leave, you have to get a copy. President, we have to send a copy to everybody's phone. You should watch it in all seriousness. It's circulating on the screens as well. It really grabs your attention, and you realize that there's so much that we do not know about what's happening at CMU. I know over the last few years, CMU has been in the clouds, but we have a chance to wipe all that away and restore the university to a place of prominence again. And I think that video is a great start, and I would implore everyone to watch it. You'll be surprised as well at what exists at CMU. Very, very good. Let me acknowledge the conference co-chairs, Professor Ibrahim Ajugunna, who is also Deputy President, and Dr. Yvette Smith-Johnson, who is the CMU's Director of Graduate Studies and Research. Let me acknowledge Dr. Genevieve Brown, President and Executive Director of the American Caribbean Maritime Foundation. And to say again, a very good morning to all the distinguished ladies and gentlemen who are here. The coronavirus pandemic wasn't the first disruption to rock the supply chain, and it won't be the last. As economist Susan Lund told McKinsey, which is a global consulting company, in 2020, issues like trade tensions, cybercrime, and natural disasters will always be threats. And so your title for this conference, End-to-End Logistics, Opportunities in an Era of Uncertainty, is quite appropriate. That's an industry that knows uncertainty. And so I say to our students, and I see many of them here, when you study logistics, you learn about important solutions for logistics crises in the past and present. When you enter into the industry, you learn how to respond to crises and create proactive strategies that minimize a disaster's impact. And that in industry, everyone learns what works and what doesn't, and to routinely minimize cost and improve shipping speed. I'm delighted to bring greetings on behalf of the Ministry of Education and Youth at this special industry conference. I take this opportunity to commend you for continuing to play a significant role in providing opportunities for young people to be marketable, not only in Jamaica and the Caribbean, but also the wider world. As a multifaceted institution, you are a great addition to the tertiary level opportunity centers that have been mandated to play a more central role in our nation's thrust to increase economic growth and job creation for our people. In fact, the maritime industry is the lifeline of the world's economy, as the numbers would show that about 90% of the world's trade is carried by sea. Yet, even as we recognize that Jamaica is an important transshipment hub for global trade, given its geographical location and trade linkages between Europe, the United States, the Far East, and the nations of Africa, we must not forget that this is a highly competitive industry. Today, we have gathered to engage in meaningful discourse, guided by the theme, again, end-to-end logistics, opportunities in an era of uncertainty, where I know that you've been highlighting the developments, new trends, and you're looking to see how Jamaica can continue to capitalize in a bigger way on the trade and business opportunities, notwithstanding the degree of uncertainty that exists within the industry of logistics. As the global economy entered the 21st century, logistics became essential to supply chain management and customer demand. As you know, logistics create an environment that promotes business results. With the rise in the popularity of global commerce, logistics has evolved into the core of supply chains. Our nation's business executives have recognized that they may save expense by forming agreements with companies that provide transportation and storage. And when organizations outsource areas such as transportation and storage, they significantly increase their total company efficiency, often allowing these partners to handle the transportation of their items to end consumers. And this results in a stronger brand and many times significantly better reputation in terms of the delivery of goods and services. So I know you are well into today's proceedings. I hope it has been impactful and thought-provoking for you. And I'd like to remind us all today that Jamaica's infrastructure and the logistics sectors are indeed critical drivers of the country's economic future. And I know that there's been a lot of thought, a lot of conversations, a lot of meetings, a lot of planning that has gone on into thinking about our industry, our logistics industry here. New laws have been promulgated, new tax initiatives and so on to help us to ensure that we have the ecosystem in Jamaica that we need in order to help this industry to grow and thrive, and for us to take advantage of our location where we are in the midst of global trade routes and so on. I know that we have been doing much, but as everyone here would agree, there is still vast opportunities that we have not yet begun to seize. And I want to implore you, as you listen to the many presentations, to continue to ask questions and take back to your workplace what you've learned here today. And students, I know that you're here, you're eager, willing to learn. You are going out into the world in short order. You will be counted on to bring new ideas, efficiencies, to speak up in the workplace, and to create a value to the companies to which you will go. So as I look around, I am pleased, I'm delighted, and again, let me say welcome to your new president. I know he comes with lots of ideas, lots of energy, willing to take CMU to the next level, and I look forward to working with him, working with all of you, look forward to working with the council as well, and continue to forge those relationships with industry here in Jamaica and abroad, because I know that it will inure to the benefit of all of us here in Jamaica. So thank you again. Thank you to the organizers of this industry conference. They're always needed to bring players together, stakeholders together in one place to share ideas, to form partnerships, to share best practices so that we can all benefit. Thank you once again, and I wish for you a very good day and that you will continue to enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.
Let's give another round of applause to our Minister of Education, the Honorable Favour Williams. I wanted to just say to you that Minister had at least 4 or 5 things lined up this morning, and she said she had to be here because this is an important conference. We're happy to have you, Minister. And everyone here gathered as a part of the CMU team commits that the CMU will be the shining star in the higher education landscape. Round of applause for that? Yes. And so as a part of our Shining Star thrust, there are many areas of excellence in the Caribbean Maritime University. We are excellent in delivery and teaching. We are excellent through our community service. We're excellent in terms of the readiness of our graduates when they have completed our programs, but we're also excellent in research. And so this is the perfect segue for me to invite Professor Ajaguna for us to have the minister be a part of the launch of our excellent journal publication, which is a CMU production. So, Professor Ajaguna.
Thank you very much, President. Thank you very much, Minister, for that wonderful speech. We want to be the leader in the industry, and this morning, this afternoon, we are launching a new journal called Global Maritime Themes and Perspectives. Global Maritime Themes and Perspectives is an Emerald-based database and is established as a peer-reviewed journal to bring together the views of experts and academia through research in responding to overarching issues affecting the maritime industry, not only in the Caribbean, but worldwide. The journal will be published quarterly, with each issue focusing on different themes. Each issue will engage the services of experts and guest editors in such fields as engineering, transportation, nautical sciences, security, logistics, supply chain, port operations and management, cruise shipping, tourism management, marine biotechnology, digital forensics. As an institution committed to practical professional excellence and located in the South, Caribbean Maritime University is determined to become a major player and center of excellence in maritime knowledge generation, curation, dissemination, and development. And it is our intention to ensure that the journal becomes the premier and become a resource material to inform the areas of maritime knowledge, production, research generation, sharing, and documentation. It is the intention of the university also to invest in knowledge generation in maritime studies, with robust review and state-of-the-art notices on maritime issues globally. More importantly, we will convoke on regular basis colloquia, symposia, conferences, distinguished lectures, workshops, and fora, which will feed the maritime, which feed the journal, and to ensure the possibility of special issues, monographs, occasional papers, and books on a regular basis. More importantly, the point and essence of making the journal an Emerald journal is to ensure its survival in perpetuity. And at this time, I would like to invite the minister and the president to join me down there for the unveiling of the new journal.
Okay, Professor Ibrahim, As you go down, I'm going to ask Professor Spencer to take Minister Williams on the right here, Professor Ibrahim to take Admiral Brady on your left, well, on my left, and I'm going to invite members of the media forward, those who are taking photographs of this auspicious occasion, so we'll have good, proper photographs. Professor Ibrahim, I was married in Jamaica, so I know what unveiling the wedding cake looks like. I don't know what unveiling the plaque with the mock-up of the new journal page looks like. So I'm going to just ask Minister Williams to take off the excitement and hand it over to you, Professor Ibrahim. We can count her down. What? Oh, 3. Oh, sorry. 3. Awesome. And ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause. It's more a photo opportunity. This you can hashtag and send out somewhere. And this will be our 2023 Emerald Database Journal. And as soon as we are thoroughly photographed, and the gift of this year's journal is being handed by our president to the minister. So this one is on the Emerald International Database, Perspectives on the Industry Through the Pandemic, and the one that is unveiled is next year's journal. CMU is doing well. You agree? Thank you, everyone. We have been holding for a long time for a break. I hear the yeses. And we are going to take a 20-minute break at this time, and I will tell you further what we're going to do after that. Please feel free to walk to the back. We have a little setup for coffee break if you need something warm. It's there. We have some exhibitors who are waiting, and I see National Bakery has been saving the day. I see the cookies coming into the bags that are in this room. But please walk along the stretch and be refreshed. The restrooms are you can access from the back, turning right, or from this doorway, turning left. And you will hear us. Exhibits are there. Right, and coffee break. And we will call you back when the 20 minutes has elapsed. Thank you for being such a gracious audience. Thank you. in Boca Raton, Florida, he positioned himself to be an industry leader. Armed with a Master of Science degree in Logistics and Supply Chain Management from the Caribbean Maritime University, yes, he was prepared for a very demanding yet rewarding industry. He has sought to leave his mark with him being awarded several professional designations, including Certified Port Executive, CPE, certification, and he's currently pursuing the Professional Port Manager designation from the American Association of Port Authorities. So the students who are pursuing this field, you want to talk to Mr. Telemack before he goes back to Dominica by whichever route, right? So please make contact. And it says, whilst making strides in the industry, he has also ventured into academia with the publishing of a journal on the challenges of transportation within the Caribbean region. Mr. Telemack has been employed as the Chief Executive Officer, and I'm sure it should be of the Antigua and Barbuda Port Authority, since 2013. So this is a contact you need to make, port management specialists. He has spearheaded the completion of US $100 million redevelopment of St. John's Harbor, transitioning the port to be cutting edge in regional port and transportation management through a comprehensive digital platform and meeting the IMO requirements for the maritime single window reality, which has helped to facilitate further integration across the port ecosystem. In addition to the chairman of the Port Management Association of the Caribbean, PMAC, in addition to being that, Mr. Telemack is currently the chairman of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States and vice president of the International Committee of Ports of the Organizations of American States. So OECS work and OAS work. His passion and extensive knowledge of the supply chain management industry affords him the privilege of working alongside several regional and international agencies, including the World Bank, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, the United States Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, CARICOM, Organization of American States, the OAS, and the Port Management Association of the Caribbean. I believe with all my heart that if there is someone who can speak to us about business, shipping business in the Caribbean and farther afield, then that person is sitting here today in the person of Mr. Darwin Telemack. And as I said, I know he will share with us how he got here. I invite you to put your hands together and make Mr. Telemack welcome.
Thank you. I'd like to observe all protocols. Thank you, Doc. I'd also like to say a special thank you to the Caribbean Maritime University for inviting us to share this very critical moment with you. I think the subject matter is something that is very important to the Caribbean space and to all of us. And indeed, I'm hoping as I present this address to you, that we will set the stage for a very interesting discussion that we'll have tomorrow. I left Louisiana last week. It was Friday. And I was told you had to go to Santo Domingo instead of going home to Antigua. So I left and went directly to Santo Domingo on Friday. When we got to Santo Domingo, I had a consultant with me. There was a hurricane going to Florida because the plan was to go back to Florida. So there's a hurricane going to Florida, so we didn't go back to Florida. We had to fly, drive from Santo Domingo 4 hours to Punta Cana to catch a direct flight to go to Antigua, which we barely made. We did. And so I arrived in Antigua on Monday night, trying to get a flight back to Jamaica from Antigua for Wednesday. everything was all set, and we had a flight connecting on Wednesday night to come here and be here, only to be told that the hurricane, we're talking logistics, and as you talk from end to end, there is a reality. I need to get here, and there's something about my passion is that I never want to fail, ever, and that's whether I do or not, I never want to. So I am telling Professor Ajuguna, I'll be here. And I know he's nervous because how am I going to get here? Then the storm grew bigger, and now entire Florida shut down. And my office says, where are you going? I'm saying, I'm going to Florida. But they shut it down. I said, when I get there, I'll get to Jamaica. Mr. Telemac, you're crazy. There's a storm. I'm going. So I jumped on the plane. For the first 15 minutes, I wish I hadn't, but we got there. And now I'm in Florida, standing at the corner of American Airlines, and I said, get me to New York. I'll catch the JetBlue flight. They said, we just shut down that flight. So they'll get me to the Bahamas. I'll get a flight across here. And the guy's thinking, this guy is nuts, because I wanted to get here last night. I didn't. So I had to go and stay in a hotel last night. At about 6, a little after 6, I got a call from my prime minister, and he says, the IMF needs to meet with you at the Ministry of Finance this morning. I said, I'm in Miami. He says, well, fix it. So I said, wow. I'm in a hotel room. I have to catch a flight to come here at 9:20. And it's just a little after 6, so I rushed in the bathroom, and guess what? The alarm went off. And now I have to run out of the room. I'm giving you a story about logistics, which is fascinating. So I'm out of the room, time's ticking, I have to meet, guess what's more important? I was coming here, but now my prime minister said do this, so I must do this. So I am figuring out how do I have a meeting with the IMF on my phone in the airport. So I quickly gathered myself, went back in the room in the noise, showered, ran out the hotel. I'm at the airport. There's 200 people in the line trying to get in because they canceled all the flights. And I spoke to the lady. She brought me to the front. I got up to the front, and now I'm racing to find the Admirals Club, which I luckily was a member of. Sat down as soon as I got in, jumped on the phone, and I'm on with the IMF. It's now it's 8:44. I'm 15 minutes late for the meeting. And the guy said we were getting ready to cancel. I'm on. We started. My flight is leaving at 9:50. It's 9:20, 9:30, 9:44. I'm still sitting with the IMF. Guys, I have to go. And I'm about to miss the flight to Jamaica, the only one to come here. And then they said, we have one more question. I took it, 9:47, and ran downstairs, and the door is shut. Luckily, at the counter, is someone I hadn't seen for 20 years who knew who I was. He said, there he is, open the door, and I'm on. So a little bit of luck, but you still have to keep trying, whatever you're doing, and that's how I got here. So it's a fascinating little story. Which sort of highlights the point, and as you control this. If the highest aim of a captain were to preserve his ship, he would keep it in port forever. Nothing happens without effort. If you are not trying, you're not going to achieve. If you want to preserve the dollar you have, you can't invest it and you can't make any more dollars. So you have to make effort. That quote, I think, exemplifies this theme. Logistics, end-to-end logistics, opportunities in an era of uncertainty. There are always these challenges about decisions we make. And as we make them, we have to understand that nothing's perfect. We are indeed living in an era of uncertainty. Oh, I got it here. We're living in an era of uncertainty. There's a global lockdown. Thank you, sir. Everyone understands that. That created some problems for us. There's a Russian/Ukraine war. And then there is COVID-19 that you have to present a vaccine card or something to go certain places or wear a mask even when you don't feel like doing it. But all of these things are things that popped up, showed up, but we have to keep figuring out what to do. As ports are critical components to national existence, I think survival, Ultimately, ports are responsible for what we wear, what we eat, what we use to cover ourselves in our homes. So I think the three basic needs are not just economic terms, they are transferred through ports, making ports very valuable. So ports have to keep going in spite of these difficulties. And this is why this subject matter is of critical importance. In the global context in which the world economies are now existing, more than ever, freight logistics and trade facilitation are critical points to be discussed. And nowhere are they even more important than in our Caribbean country. I'm in a country with multiple ports, and that gives you some options. But many of the other islands that you interface with have one singular facility that they use for cargo and cruise ships. And so think of the dynamics. You're surrounded by water, and 95% of what you need to survive comes through that port. We will speak about that a little bit later on. In order to develop effective logistics platforms, Caribbean ports have to simultaneously work in several directions by taking into account the requirements of shippers who are sending goods and receivers who are getting those goods. Critical to the shop that you're going to or the supermarket that you're going to are some things that happens without you even understanding it. Many years ago, I was employed by a major Caribbean shipping line living in Florida, sitting at the table organizing when those ships would leave and when they would arrive. You don't figure it out, but we determined when you got the fresh vegetables. We determined what day you got it. So if we wanted you to get it on a Sunday, that's when the ship came. And when we made changes to our schedule, it interrupted your system. So the housewives were not just going to the store on a Monday because they wanted to leave work. The ship came late that Sunday night. Now the fresh vegetables are there. But guess what happens on Saturday? There are no fresh vegetables. There's just the stale stuff. Because if the ship comes on Sunday night, by Friday or Thursday, the stuff is not there anymore. Very important to understand that these companies are living in a space where I'd like to challenge us to change, because I believe that he who controls shipping to the Caribbean controls the Caribbean. And I don't want that to be people who are not in the Caribbean. And we have left that off to folks who are extra Caribbean for too long, and we need to start, you bright young students, and just start looking at how we could change that. So ports are pulled in different directions for different reasons. And as we navigate these areas, the requirement for seaport services continues to grow. We're not just talking about the physical change, but we're talking about digitalization, logistics, trade facilitation, productivity, efficiency. We're talking about profitability for businesses that relies on ports for goods to arrive in good condition at a given time with some level of predictability. And boy, is that challenging. And businesses are depending on us port managers to deliver those things for them. And that's not easy to do. The competitive position of ports, and in some cases, you don't have competition. For example, in Antigua, there's no competition for the Antigua port. Now, to a region, and I don't know how far this will go, it is often odd that countries who have one singular port think that they're competing with another port. It is a reality that Caribbean ports has to erase from our strategy. We are integrated. We are not competing. We rely on each other, and we form part of a supply chain, and the only reason that supply chain is not functioning is because the users of our ports are not regional entities. So they don't connect us, and it is a strategy not to do that so that they can continue to control the region. So I'm going to be speaking to Jamaica in a little bit because I think Jamaica needs to step up. There are some symbiotic relationships that I'll speak to in a minute. The Maritime, we saw Rear Admiral Brady here. It's one on the Maritime side. In Antigua is Dwight Gardner. I know many of the guys who are on the Maritime side. Lots of you here are students going to be impacted by what we do on the maritime side. As a matter of fact, I'd just like to say that in Antigua, we have designated seafarers as essential workers, and that's part of our legislation, so that what happened during COVID would never happen in Antigua. We facilitated the transfer of crew. We allowed them to get COVID shots for free. We allowed them to see a doctor if they needed one, because ships bring goods, and people on those ships are what makes it happen. And what happened at COVID was a travesty when seafarers were left at sea without countries realizing that they rely on these men. Metal does not make things happen. People do. And you seafarers who are here, in Antigua at least, you have a different world. I hope the other countries can tag along. So, end-to-end uncertainty, it requires that we have a different view, a different look. Just recently, the Suez Canal decided that they're going to raise rates. Now, step back for 1 second. Prior to that, we saw an explosion of shipping freight rates. It went from $5,000 into the markets to $20,000 from China, $24,000. And I had one little guy who came into Antigua. He brought a 20-foot container of palm oil from Malaysia, and his prior cost was $4,800. And when he got the bill of lading, it said 18,000 US dollars, and he stood there wondering, how am I going to move this? So there was an explosion of cost due to COVID, due to supply chain challenges, due to the challenges with equipment, due to challenges at ports, congestion, all sorts of things happened. And we are now living in a space where we know the crisis. There's also the issue of supply. Food became short. Companies decided to bargain on who would get it. So even the volumes that you were expecting to get at times, there was rationing going on all over the world. This is why you have the inflationary effects that is now taking place, why goods are so expensive. This is important, folks. So in the midst of that, the Suez Canal decides that they're going to jack up their rates by 20%. So the already high 23,000 US dollars, which we were hoping would go down, every ship that goes through there within the next couple of weeks paid 20% more. Guess what happens? It comes to the end. It's passed on. Guess what the ships do? They don't pass on the 20%. They mark it up so it gets to another point. So the pressure is building. The Panama Canal decided as well, we're going to do the same thing. And so early in the next year, we're going to see the canal increase their fees. We're speaking about an environment where nothing is certain. So much uncertainty and we have to simply stay on the back end and deal with it. And I like to say that there are some things that you cannot control. Now, earlier on I said I worked for a shipping line. We issued the bill of lading. Too many governments, too many businesses, too many regulators are looking at bills of lading. Start looking beyond the bill of lading. Why? You cannot control the bill of lading. As a port, it comes to you regardless of what you say or do. But from the tackle of the ship, ports continue to ignore the impact they have as we go from the crane to the yard, to the gate, up the road, and all of the in-betweens. I like to say to ministers, that's what we control. Let us fix that. We are too busy looking at the image that we see on the bill of lading, ignoring the invisible challenges that we place on our users, on our citizens, by ignoring what we don't see. And sometimes, if you believe that what you don't see is real, do you trust in God? The things that you are not seeing are impacting you so much more. And sometimes they are very visible, but for political expediency and for lack of wanting to do the right thing, we just simply allow our existence to continue. And so I'm saying,
If we're going to fix end-to-end, we have to address a lot of these. And I put this slide up because that's something that we don't control. What can we say to the Suez Canal people? We're not even there. You are in a very critical place here in Jamaica. You represent the only global entry in the Caribbean, in the English-speaking Caribbean. Caucedo is next to you, but they're different because they speak Spanish. You are a critical piece to Caribbean logistics. And so I am a little challenged that we don't see more coming from the fact that a global entry location such as Jamaica is permeating its way into Caribbean transport and Caribbean logistics. It goes past Jamaica to Miami, and we're controlled by Miami. Let's change that paradigm. It's about time that we get Jamaica to insert itself further into the delivery of goods and services into the Caribbean, because you represent our only connection. Prior to COVID, there were containers coming into Jamaica from Honduras, Brazil, at very low rates. They would be transshipped by some of the lines to Miami, and we would pay 4 times what it landed in Jamaica in our islands. I'll give you another little nugget. We speak about Caribbean maritime connectivity. The only option that exists in the Caribbean for maritime connectivity is a small feeder line called Caribbean Feeder Services. Guess where it comes from? Kingston. Yet, it goes to selected markets, and we don't see the impact of that. However, when you sit at CARICOM, and I sit there, there's very little discussion about Jamaica's importance from a transport, logistics, and maritime perspective. As a matter of fact, I keep signaling it is the only way to do it. I hear countries wanting to insert themselves. Reality says you need volumes to move cargo, you need volumes to make logistics work, and you get the largest volumes of regional cargo. It goes past you to Miami, but you get it. We don't use it, and we should start changing that. A couple years ago, I spoke to a group of Jamaican students on Zoom, and I challenged them to import items from around the world into Kingston Container Terminal at the time, and you've now changed the name, manipulate it in Kingston, and ship it back out to the Caribbean. Well, they couldn't find ways to do that, so what we now need to do is to figure out how to get Caribbean feeder services integrated more into the logistics and transport services in our region so that we can have something that we can depend on. Now, mind you, Caribbean feeder services is not owned by all Caribbean people, that's true, but it comes from Jamaica, it integrates from Jamaica, and that's what's different. So here is an opportunity for you who are interested or wanting to get into the whole concept of logistics. If you have goods coming from China, and every customer in Barbados, Antigua, Dominica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent says, drop it in Kingston, we will end up with every week having 400 containers here. That's the basis for getting a logistics platform together. Why aren't we doing it? It's happening, but it's not happening in a way that makes me excited to do it. So, simple answers to our end-to-end logistics challenges. First, we need to have more cooperation. Sometimes when you are big like Jamaica, you can not realize that there is a critical importance of your smaller neighbors and your friends, and we also have to speak to that. The relevance of the Caribbean nations is something that Jamaica has to recognize is still important for all of us to survive. If the big walks away, then the weak dies. So we need Jamaica to integrate with the smaller islands and find a solution to solving it. Why am I saying that? I'll say it right now. There is a diminishing volume of shipping lines in our region. I heard a question asked by Rear Admiral Brady about the small ships, and I was interested in that question because I want more small ships. There aren't enough small ships. We should encourage small ships. Our maritime laws should facilitate more and more of these things, because what's happening in our region is very, very serious. Zimline no longer comes to Kingston, does it? They're gone. They left. In our region, Crowley doesn't come. Kent Lines doesn't come. Burnoof Line doesn't come. Thompson Line's gone. Hyde Line's gone. Name them. Tech Marine's gone. We can name them. They're all leaving. Sea Freight was bought by Crowley. Now Sea Freight's gone. The Caribbean is at a crisis of transport. But it's not really a crisis for those who control transport. They're happy to see the options go away. And as options goes away, if we believe that the end-to-end solution will improve because COVID goes away, when you have less competition, the one that rises is going to ensure that you are under some real pressure. Two things will happen. Rates will go up, and then folks will start saying, that's too small of an island, we won't go there. There is a challenge facing us. And as a Caribbean people, we have to look at it. And as Jamaica is the only one with the ship that's doing it, we are challenging Jamaica, insert yourself, find ways to do it. And there's a lot of talk going around transport. I'm sure you're hearing it. In all of those discussions, there is very little mention of Kingston. And if you look at some slides that I have done, you will notice that in every instance, I keep inserting at the behest of a lot of people, you can't ignore the only location that has cargo. And Kingston has global cargo. Now, I'll give you another example. I know I'm probably going a little long here, but Miami has one thing. They don't make anything. They just collect everything. And then they send it back to you. And everything goes through Kingston to add to what Miami has and comes back to us. Come on, folks. Let's change that paradigm. There's a company called American Fruit and Produce. I used to manage that customer when I worked in Florida. I can tell you how much money they made. And they send hundreds of refrigerated containers to cruise ships all over the Caribbean, sending it to our islands, to your island too. Guess where the fruits come from? Chile, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica. Guess where it passes through? Kingston. Goes to Kingston and up the road. Why aren't you manipulating those loads? Why aren't we creating these opportunities in our countries here so that you can have a greater opportunity to infuse connectivity, greater economic benefits from our Caribbean Sea area rather than have it going back up to what I consider to be a colonial arrangement where Miami continues to control us. I am not one who actually believes in that. So more investment in Caribbean feeder services, and that doesn't, I'm not promoting the line that says Caribbean feeder service. I'm speaking of wanting more. We have one now. It's not enough. We need more. So as governments recognize that we need to either through subsidies or direct intervention, or maybe we should start incentivizing investment through the right legislations so that those folks who are sitting on large sums of money would realize that there is one thing that will never ever stop. People need to eat. Food has to be brought to people, and there are too few people doing it. And guess what? They will hoodwink you to believe that they're the only ones who should and can. We need some gutsy people to step in to change that. And I'm here asking for us to do that. If we talk about improving air cargo, then I'm an example of that. I shouldn't have to go through all that headaches to come here. So that's a point that goes without saying. The development of our human capital, CMU as a region, is an institution, that must be recognized not just as a Jamaica institution. You are not a Jamaica institution, I'll say. And I'm not Jamaican. You trained 21 young Antiguans, which were the first tertiary trained individuals in the history of the Antigua Port Authority. You trained them, and you have inserted into a space a different level of people. Where else would we have gone to do that? Now there's Mona, St. Augustine, and Cave Hill, but they don't prepare people for the most critical element that makes the books show up, that makes the chairs show up, that makes the furniture arrive. No one cares about transport. It's like an industry that's, if it happens, it happens. It is the most impactful service that exists in our area. We do not have multimodal transport systems. We don't. we can't do air freight, so most of our stuff is done by maritime. We have no rail, we're not connected by roads, so why aren't we training more and more people into transport, port management, port logistics? So what CMU is doing is absolutely quintessential to the future of the region, and I applaud you, and I say that governments in the region must take a different look at CMU to ensure that CMU is not recognized only in Jamaica, but it becomes a fixture in Georgetown, in Kingstown, in Roseau, in St. John's, in Basta, in all of the region, that CMU will not only be known as requiring to send Jamaican cadets and ships, but Caribbean people. Because there's one thing that's true about logistics, is that it doesn't happen in a straight line. There are connections to it in many ways. So as you travel throughout your career and your life, those of you who are getting into this business, you realize that it's dynamic and it happens in many different ways. So I think I spoke of Jamaica changing itself. In Antigua, we have used a PMAC strategy to implement a maritime single window. I'm going to rush through the rest of my presentation. This is a very interesting program. This is where we clear ships electronically. We have eliminated the need to have a boarding party go on the ship. Wow, what a struggle. Let me tell you, there are some sacred cows, and people like to do things they've always done. Change is not easy. Spence likes to say that. Those of you who teach, those of you who lecture, Karen, you know that. Change is not easy. So we went from having 8, 9, 12 people going on a ship to having the ship cleared 3 miles out at sea. Ladies and gentlemen, do you know what the economic benefit of that is? Let me give you an example. Ship comes into the port. There's one boarding party. There are 5 cruise ships at the harbor, and they have to take 30 minutes to clear each one of those cruise ships. In the meantime, the cargo ship is sitting waiting. If you were to assess the impact of the cruise business on the cargo business, it begins easily to understand that the cargo is actually subsidizing the cruise business, something that we have to look at. And once again, the cruise business, while we love it, should not be impeding on the quality of life of our people. It should add to it. So here's an example. No one will allow the boarding party to go clear the goods that the housewife is waiting for. Clear the people off the ship. So it takes 2.5 hours before we can go board that ship and clear it. How much does it cost to have a ship sit there for that long per hour? A few $1,000s. And the ship owners are saying we have to increase the bill of lading because we have a challenge. So then they come down to the dock and they take 30 minutes, 40 minutes to go on board and come off. Then we start working. Multiply $7,000 times 52 weeks times maybe 10 ships. This is just wasteful spending of money. This is just monies that are going against you that we can solve. So by eliminating the boarding party, the ship is cleared 3 miles out. We start loading when it docks. The cruise ship is cleared 3 miles out, and instead of waiting for 2 hours for the customers to walk off, 2 hours of which we are missing spending, we get more spend because they are walking off. The technology sits there. It's sitting at the IMO for any country to receive it for free. The government of Antigua was blessed by the country of Norway to give us a maritime single window. The entire source code is available at the IMO, and we implore everyone who's probably hearing or listening, if you want to speak to us about that, we are happy to assist you with how we did it, but it's available. Will it challenge you? Yes. Will it go against the status quo? Yes. Will there be a few customs and immigration officers unhappy? True. We are too emotional. Let's make data speak for once. Leaders act with too much emotions. Let data speak. If you start looking at what it's costing your people and not being all emotional about it, we would make changes. But I'm not the politician, so that's easy for me to say. So we are at a crossroads. In Antigua, we decided to make some changes, and I'll show you some of those changes. We went into a whole new development. You can probably see it. I'll just get to the slide that I want to show you. This is a port that Karen Adair knows very well. She did some work there. As a matter of fact, when I joined there in 2013, she was doing an assessment of the port. Can I tell you a little short story? That port was in so much trouble, real trouble, and she knows it, losing almost $9–10 million a year, can't finance itself. This was the port. Well, we went into a transformation. We sat down and we planned. This is what we now have. We just signed off on this project last week, Thursday. We have the newest ship yard, the newest port in the world, and it's set up in a whole different way, hoping that we could bring in a whole new vision. The concrete can't make it happen. We have to. Proper legislation, proper corporate governance, proper use of the digital and environment, all of these things will make that happen. But having a pretty picture is not something that I'm excited about, because if you remember, let me show you something very interesting. If you notice, there are two buildings in that picture. There's a warehouse to the east and there's an administrative building to the west. For 52 years, this port existed in Antigua as the only port, and we could only put containers in between the warehouse and the administrative building. Talk about risk. Talk about inefficiencies and challenges. That's all we had. And for 52 years, we did that. So we were operating a breakbulk port in using containers. And most of our islands are doing that, and that continues even today. We also used to bring cruise ships there. Look at how filthy that is. And so that was not something that we did. So in addition to changing that, we also, I don't have the slide to show you, we built 5 cruise ship ports that are distinctly separate from this, which means that the Antigua Port Authority has inserted itself with a different mission. You will not come to our port and be stopped from berthing because of a cruise ship. The cruise ship goes one way, this goes the other way. And so we want to take this port, and we're saying to the region, let's use this port. It's too big for Antigua. It's too big. But we built it with the idea that we could extend our services into the rest of the Caribbean. And I'm going to end right now by saying, I'm hoping that we can do that. There's some slides tomorrow that I want to share with you a little bit more. But if you're speaking about end-to-end, this is the beginning. And sometimes I like to tell the folks, this puts more pressure on me as a manager to ensure that one group of people benefit. Today, tropical shipping doesn't have the warehouse in their way when they come in. They don't have the administrative building. Seaboard and tropical can work at the same time. We couldn't do that before. So they're receiving a huge benefit. Seaboard would have to wait until tomorrow morning when they came before tropical, if tropical was there first. Today they can both work at the same time. Efficiencies. Now what are the citizens receiving for that? The same high rates and more rates going up. So we have to tell them, if we have advanced an efficient delivery of service to you, it cannot end at the water's edge. It has to translate to our people in some measure, in some way. Otherwise, the concrete that we just spent would have been a waste of money, because ports have to impact on the people that it serves. And a lot of times we think of ports, and port workers think of themselves as the reason that the port exists. The port is owned by the citizens. It should benefit the citizens. And it's something that we're hoping that we can do here in Antigua. These are just a few images that we have, a new building. So we've taken the building off. There's something else that I want you to look at. The warehouse is not at the port. So we have a gate separating the warehouse from the container terminal. And we did that by design. So if you're not working in the terminal, you can't go over in the terminal. You stay in the warehouse. So we've done a proper separation, but I don't have time to go into that right now. So we have a new admin building. And best yet, folks, in preparation for last week when we signed off on that completion, we sent some students to Jamaica. We had some challenges, yes, but we sent them there because we knew you can't operationalize a space just because it looks good. You need good thinking, good prepared people to do so. And thanks to CMU, we have 21 young Antiguans who are prepared to help us elevate from the concrete to put the port on the right stage. So the plan was, on one end, we have a vision to have a new space, but in addition to that, we need people like you prepared to do so. So this was part of the strategy that we implemented, and this guy try to do it. I won't stay too much longer, but I'll just tell you that there are some simple next steps that we want to do. First of all, I won't even look at my screen here. I'll just tell you that I want to break it down a little bit more. First, we need to improve our human resource by training them, and CMU, you're tasked with that. We are not in any way done with you, Dr. Ajaguna. We are going to be working with you. I want you to know that. We have no choice. We have to fix our issues and keep working. So that's one. The second one is we have to use digitalization to improve the... if you understand my mind, emotions is hurting our people because we see the right thing and because we feel a certain way, we don't do it. Let data speak. Let the data drive your decision, okay? Third, we want to ensure that we transform the infrastructure with reason. We don't want every port to build a $100 million port, so we'll integrate with what we have. That's third. And then we want to have people like Karina there come and assist us in addressing how we modernize our tariffs. Tariffs that were written in 1965, still existing today, with things that don't even exist at the port anymore, but they're still there driving the process. That can't work. And finally, we want to look at how we can address the union problem. I'll get to that in our discussion tomorrow. Big problem. No one likes to speak about it. But unions are important, but sometimes unions create inflated costs in our countries, and we have to also find ways to address that. It's not a very sexy subject for the politicians to hear, but when you ignore it, the perils come and your people suffer. I was listening to the Governor General of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank just recently, and he implored the unions. He begged them. COVID just happened. Businesses are struggling. You are asking for 10 and 20% increases. You are about to further inflate the existence of your people. Please have reason. But let me tell you something. You will get on your knees and pray, but ain't no reason coming. And something has to be done to address how that interface takes place to the benefit of the people. And it's something that we will explore a little bit more. And finally, I'd just like to say that we are starting off I think at the apex of a discussion at the head of the Caribbean in Jamaica, and I consider it that. You are the top here with the greatest capacity to feed into us. Your capacity to help end-to-end work, you have the only port community system. You have the only digital structure that a lot of us envy. You have a maritime university. You have the only global port in the Caribbean. You have large industries, some of which are not even engaging into the region because you're so focused on North America. The pieces are here, Jamaica. And the Caribbean, as small as we are going to rely on you to help engage and improve on that. So I want to thank you for a few minutes. Tomorrow I'll express a little bit more details with you. And Dr. Ajaguna, thank you again. On behalf of PMAC, which is the Port Management Association of the Caribbean, we are happy to be here. And PMAC is a port organization focused on port issues only. We meet once a year, and we discuss port-related matters. And we are excited to be here among you, and thank you very much for the few minutes. A little long, but I hope we've been able to shed some lights for you. Thank you.
Ladies and gents, before Mr. Telemac goes, we are the poor cousins of the sector. We are the university. But we do say thank you in kind. And so we have a small token for Darwin. And we thank you so much for coming and just starting this discussion.
Thank you very much.
And ladies and gentlemen, you've been an awesome audience. And I know our students. I see students taking notes, and my heart is warmed. And he came to Jamaica by way of all those turns to talk to the community here. So we have a phrase in Jamaican patois that we call bomb rush. Students, bomb rush him. Let him get something to eat and stuff, but talk to him, especially our port management students. Please talk to Mr. Telemac about he's involved in so many things. Look at his profile again. Think about the one you want in 5 years and talk to him. Ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, you've been a wonderful audience. We do have some points of order, though, before we proceed. After I step away, Prof. Ibrahim will say something for a second, but we are going to go to a very shortened lunch because we had to adjust our schedule. And I already see our industry practitioners sitting, and their time is money, so you know it's relationship why they're here, because we can't pay them. So we are going to take lunch. We're going to have our presenters go to our lunch first, and we must say that lunch is still being managed with the COVID protocols. So in another conference we'd want to buffet style, but really lunch is packaged, and you'll have a nice sensible selection, and lunch is served in the dining room that's under the staircase that we use to come in. And we pick up, there's space there to eat. We can eat in the lounge area at the back, but the conference room, they're asking that we don't eat. You know, I cannot say this on the mic. I know we've been eating in here already, but we will not do any such thing again. And we will come right back to hear our beautiful industry panel and several presentations before we close the day today. Please use it, especially for the students, as data collection opportunity. And thank you so much. Professor Ibrahim, you want to say something before we go?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. There is something that Darwin didn't say to you. At the last PMAC conference, which he shared, the recommendation came up, which is similar to WIMAC that you spoke to earlier on, that we need to have a student chapter or a student committee of PMAC, and for the fact that the studies that our students are doing going to benefit PMAC tremendously, and PMAC also has the data, you know, because all the ports across the Eastern Caribbean, to include us here, we have a mammoth of data that we are not even using effectively. So if we have students, if we have the student chapter of PMAC, I think it will be a wonderful thing for the region. And secondly, Darwin, everybody who introduced you before you came, they refer to you as Dr. Darwin, Dr. Telmark, Dr. Telmark. We are going to work on that.
I'm going to invite our ushers to take our presenters out first, and then all persons will be served a meal. And there will be the lunch service in the dining room. Thank you so much, and let us synchronize our watches, please. I realize that expensive watches have different time from other watches. Prof. Ibrahim's watch is more expensive, and he's 5 minutes behind, so he's going to tell me that it is 1:25. He says it's 1:20. We will be back here at 2. Thank you.